Welcome to Out of the Blank.
Since we're going to be talking for a while, because that's always what we do, Chris, we like to chat. We're both off today and we both have unlimited amount of time, unlimited amount of possibilities. What would you do if you could live forever or time just didn't move? What would you do?
Well, fuck. I don't know. That's a hard question. I think we actually had that question on our podcast recently. Well, time travel, more or less.
Do you think it's possible?
Yeah.
Time travel? I can't tell if you froze or you're thinking.
I'm thinking.
Okay.
What would I do if I had all the time in the world? Or time completely frozen?
Get really good at racquetball. I would try and think of the most boring thing to possibly do, but I feel like you never want to be alone. And imagine if you had unlimited amount of time, but if time was frozen, it'd be a different story. Like if you could just live forever, that would suck because you'd have to keep getting into new relationships and, developing that, losing family and all that. But I mean, then how did they handle it back in the day? They just had a bunch of kids. And if one got sick and died, they were like, well, fuck it. We got 12 more.
Yeah, that's what they had. Just, oh, it's okay. We got more in stock. One goes down. We got 6 others.
So it's kind of like cloning. I mean, eventually we're going to have clones. That's a real possibility. I mean, come on, dude. Think about it. You can roll back the odometer on your car. It's illegal. Don't do it, but you can. But like, you got to think if they can roll back the clock on your skin with Botox and all that, how long until they can reverse it to where it can work on your insides? So then you're going to have people that are living to be 900 years old. You get married and she's like, oh, yeah, by the way, I'm 972 years old. You're like, I'm fucking 24. Like, you've lived a billion of my lifetime or 100 of my lifetimes already. She's like, yeah. And let me tell you, all I want to do is sip chamomile tea and eat butterscotch candies. And you're like, that sounds boring as hell. You look like you're in your 30s. And she's like, yeah, well, I'm not. I'm old. I was there when Nixon got shot. You're like, Nixon got shot? She goes, oh, you don't know. And I'm like, what? Hang on.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. I think it's because they see so much. It's like, well, what is the point? What do I need to do more? I've seen it all.
So you need to be smoking weed because you need to get on my level. My brain's just naturally high.
Well, I also just woke up. I'm just starting to have my coffee.
I've been up for 15 hours.
Jesus. How do you do it?
Just don't sleep. You don't really need it. It's not that big of it's more of a luxury than a necessity, I would say. I mean, if you
little slices of death, they say.
Yeah, you take those naps and then one time you don't wake up from your nap and then that's a bad experience. Or do you even know? Does life continue on after?
That's a good question. Like what does happen after? Do we just rot in a box, or is there another plane? Like, what if this isn't just like our level of life? Like, what if evolution is part of death? What if that is our evolutional state of our next evolutional state? We die and then become something else.
Throughout the show, I've talked to a lot of people with like psychic, would say psychic abilities or the feeling of like empath. I definitely think there's a next stage in the human evolution that naturally happens, but I feel like we're speeding up the clock by using artificial kind of technology that we create, implementing technology into our bodies to be able to hear each other's thoughts or speak through our thoughts. I feel like we could just naturally get there. And I'm like, man, they say it's better when you wait, like it's worth the wait. Like whenever like a parent tells you, you can't have that ice cream until we get done with dinner. And you're like, and you bitch, you told me at breakfast and you're fucking like, you're losing your mind because you got to have that ice cream at the end of the night. And then you finally have it. You're like, oh my God, this is worth everything. That kid at school that grabbed me by my book bag and threw me to the ground and spit on my face and called my parents a stupid pieces of shit. And then you're like, but this Ben and Jerry's is so good. It feels good. So maybe the evolution, we should just wait, but people don't want to wait now. Everything's Amazon's not even 2-day ship anymore. It's we're at your fucking door the minute you click. You even think about clicking that put in my cart bag or that
Yeah.
button, it's at your fucking house through your window, killing whatever is landing it on top of.
I wish it was that fast. Damn. Like I've ordered some shit that hasn't been here. Still hasn't been here yet. Still waiting on some shit.
I've never waited on Amazon.
Maybe it's a Canadian thing.
I've never ordered it.
Oh, there you go.
I don't have the luxury of that. They're like, put in your credit card number. And me, I'm just like, fuck no, because I know how that's how you get charges. It's like when you're at a store and
Yeah.
someone's like, before you finish your purchase, can you tell me your email address? I'm like, why do you need my email address if I'm giving you cash for the thing that I'm going to buy? I'm never coming back in here. I didn't even want to come in here. I got dragged in here.
Yeah.
So can I just buy it? They're like, well, we're going to need your email address. I'm like, fuck you at gmail.com. They're like, fuck you at Gmail. Hey, it's like,
That's probably
yeah,
an email someone.
yeah. Just
That's
just
probably
type
someone's
in a
email.
random email. They do that at my work, and they're like, you have to ask people their email address. I'm like, none at gmail.com. I'm like, so whoever's that person that owns that email has just been getting all my fucking work shit for the longest time.
Just to jump back to the evolution thing, how do you feel about the theory that our evolution was stagnant and our next evolutional phase is technological, like technological?
That's a hard word. I would have stuttered on. I'm not even gonna
Yeah.
say it because that just looked difficult. Um,
Yeah.
you think that wait, so repeat that again. You said not that you don't have to say the word again, but you think that the next stage or the hypothesis that the theory that the next stage of evolution is going to be technological.
Yes. So like us doing these what do you call it? Pacemakers and stuff like that. Going technologically route of having things done to us. Like, you ever played Cyberpunk
Yeah,
2027 or heard of it? So basically, that's our next evolution, is that we're going to use technology so much that we're going to integrate it into our bodies and stuff that it's going to basically heighten our next. It's going to make us live longer. It's going to make us be able to jump farther. Who knows? One day we might have things that be able to attach to our backs to help us fly.
that's what I was saying earlier about speeding up the clock with man-made evolution.
Yeah.
I don't think it's going to be a perfected process. I think it's going to be time, but then the only other possible scenario I could think of is that we start branching off with the metaverse. Like I used
Mm-hmm.
to discredit the metaverse. I was like, get out of here. Like nobody even liked Facebook that much anyway. And then now I see it really taking off. And like I just talked to someone this morning who's like, he's a dad. He's got a couple of kids a little bit younger than me. So he's not super old. He's like in his like maybe entering his 40s. And he's like, dude, I just played virtual reality for the first time. He's like, dude, you don't ever want to leave. And I'm like, yeah, eventually it's going to get to a point where there's going to be, you're going to see so you know how the human race started was like there's
Mm-hmm.
the hominids, then there's the Neanderthals. Now the hominids were smart enough to evolve and adapt and be able to survive in their climate. The Neanderthals kind of died out. Even though there's some like there's a couple people I've seen before that have like a Neanderthal face where it's like a really thick bulged out forehead
Yeah.
but then like a strong jaw where you're like, I could fucking punch you in the jaw and I would break every bone in my hand all the way up my arm. It would have that much of an impact.
Yeah.
We know some of those people. They probably have a bit of Neanderthal in their genetics. But I think it's going to reverse. It's going to go like how every society has its rise and then its collapse. It's a
Mm-hmm.
constant loop. I feel like this is the same thing. We're going to start seeing a branch off where there's going to be people that are just going to go sucked all the way into the metaverse that are never going to want to leave. So it's like Wally, where their bones just become like sponges and they don't ever get to use the physical part, but their mental capacity is going to expand so fucking far. Like when you're watching like Rain Man do count cards or something like that. But
Mm-hmm.
then the physical aspect, I think there's going to be the branch off where people are not going to want to do the metaverse. And the people that don't do that, they just go work out. They just do physical things and they become like the Neanderthals. And then we're going to see the branch off happen again, just like in the beginning when it converged together. I think that's a possible scenario too. And then there's the technology one where, I mean, how far are we to being able to clone material? I mean, that's a real, I guess, idea out there
Mm-hmm.
now that I didn't know was that much of an idea. But after I've heard so many scientists and interviews talk about the whole plasma, reconstruction, being able to replicate a cell just like our cells can replicate naturally, but speeding up the process of cloning, That's one too, dude. I
Mhm.
just see a like it's like Doctor Strange when he's like doing all like this fucking, phasing out and shit, trying to see all the possible scenarios. And
Yeah,
then you go,
yeah.
how many did we win? He's like, one out of all the whatever he looked at. That's kind of like what this is. There's so many different options and avenues. I mean, at any moment, an asteroid can come out of space and hit us, and then we're
Yeah.
gone. In my opinion, I would like something that would be cloning wise or something of that sort, because I think there's a good and a bad with everything. So before I get into like a huge rant and stuff, what do you think would be the good and bad of cloning?
Well, it's always like it comes down to a morality thing, I think, isn't it? It's like, is it a person that we're cloning? Is that a person, or is that going to be considered another type of thing? Like, will it come down to cloning rights? Like, if you're a clone, do you have rights? Are you a person?
Should you?
Are you a human? Do you have the same rights as me and you? Or are you gonna have clone rights? Or like iRobot, where the clones will have their whole set of own rules they have to follow. You know?
Well, it's like imagine if you had a kid and your kid tragically died and then you had a clone of your kid. Would you
The
still
Good
love them the
Son.
same?
I think that's the movie, isn't
Yeah, the good son. I love how you fucking dropped that. That was great.
it? Yeah. Like Macaulay Culkin,
But it's like,
Elijah Wood.
would you love them the same, knowing that they're a copy and your original is gone?
Yeah.
Like it it
Well,
it 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 makes it you have a conflict of emotions. And then if you're imagine if your wife, like I was watching there's a movie with Keanu Reeves, new one on Netflix, where he's
okay.
able to digitize, but they made clones of his family because he just lost his family in a car accident. So
Hmm.
he cloned their bodies, but he couldn't clone his youngest daughter. So that means can only have his one daughter, his middle son, and then have his wife. But the youngest daughter was gone. And it's like they're starting to realize that there's something like I remember being in a car crash, like, oh, it was a bad dream. No, it really happened. They still have the memories and everything. But
Hmm.
it's like, I don't know. If I was married and I lost my wife and then I had to make a clone of her or something, it's a clone. Like at any moment, would they just turn their mind around and be like, I want a clone husband? And they stab me and I'm fucking dead. And then they bring back a clone and then my clone gets to live and have sex as much as he wants or as much as they'll let them have.
Yeah. Maybe clones won't have those reproductive parts.
And then
Maybe that's how they keep
would you accept a
clones.
clone president?
That's what I'm saying. Like, maybe that's how we keep clones in lines, that they don't have reproductive parts, so they can't make their own clones. They can't make their own people.
See, now you're falling down the superhuman route that China's doing right now. See, the only way you can get a horse and a the only way you can get a mule is by breeding a horse and a donkey. So what China's done is that they're going to start injecting like super soldier serum into people, like Captain America style. They're making it so they can't have kids
Hmm.
because you don't want to breed a whole race of superhuman people.
Yeah.
But how long until the lines get blurred? See, with anything, you got to think about human capacity to want to fuck
Yeah.
shit up. And as much as I love people and I love humankind, I think it's an amazing species. I think the fact that we're able to literally change the ground that we live on is not only a threat, but it's hope in a sense. Um,
Yeah.
Cloning in a positive route for me would be like if there's a million copies of yourself, you could go out into the world and not have to worry about getting shot in a fucking grocery store and then dying right there.
Hmm.
Instead, you can have your clone come back. So you're like, oh, I didn't even get hit by that bus. Like, okay, but then that makes you frugal with your life. Now you're willing to fucking play Russian roulette more. Like it doesn't make sense. There's a good and a bad to it.
Or treat life more like a video game now, because you got some extra lives. You got extra man. Get a man up.
Like it'd be cool if it was like a cat version where you had 9 lives. So if you got shot, you're like, I got 8 more of these motherfuckers left. You know what I mean?
But still, that'd probably make you at least a little more dangerous in thinking. I'll go stop this robbery because I got 8 lives left.
How many bullets does he has? He has 7. I got 9 lives. Let's fucking go.
Exactly. Make you
Damn,
more
he shot me
dangerous.
7 times in the head and I didn't think of an extra clip.
Yeah, cloning is a very scary thing. Like the movie Surrogates, it's almost like the same thing where you don't really leave your house. You jump in a tube or you jump into like a thing, and then your surrogate goes out and does all your stuff. It's a Bruce Willis movie, and it was a comic book too.
Oh shit, yeah, where he was a cop and then
Yeah,
they had a
his
gun that they
surrogate
could
stopped
shoot
working
you
or
and
something.
yeah,
Yeah,
they
and
could
he had to
shoot
go
you
out
with a
himself.
gun and fry your
Yeah,
fucking surrogate and it kills you. That's even scarier. That's like the metaverse.
yeah. Never been in there yet, but
What
it
about
sounds cool.
what about Terminator?
Our my co-host Ryan, he's really all into the whole Skynet. It's gonna take over. There's fuck zombies, fuck nuclear war, stuff like that. He swears the next thing that's gonna happen is the robots are taking over.
I mean, yeah, there was that recent video that robotics lab in Michigan or something. They created
Right.
a robot that had like actual like facial features and stuff.
Hmm.
But like when I played a video on the show before where it was an AI talking with an AI,
Hmm.
and it was like the smart and dumb kid in the classroom talking to each other. Like the one kid's like, "Hello, how are you?" He's like, "I am good. How about you?" "That's good." And it would like cut him off like last, like knew what it was like predictive programming. But then
Yeah.
you saw this person go, "Well, you just said you were a robot." "No, I did not." And then it goes, "Well, are you?" And goes, "No, I am a unicorn." And you start seeing like this fucking AI is putting words in the other AI's mouth. And it's like intense, like watching this psychological chess game go where it's like you're in a battle with a narcissist that you don't know you're fucking in. And it's interesting because I was scared of that too. I was really at the beginning of the show, I was so scared of AI enhancement or like creating artificial life. And it was going to be like Skynet.
Yeah.
There's a whole study called it's like the study of existential risk, which is a whole like they get paid like $500 million a year or something like that, to study and check every technological advancement to make sure that nothing's going to like take over the world.
Right.
At least monitor all these AI systems and stuff too. But I feel like everyone's blurred the line so much, like where these algorithms come out. These algorithms are really, really difficult. Like I pulled up on this show before, Google, for instance, and I think it was 2009. They shut down the whole internet for 45 minutes.
Hmm.
And they did it on a Saturday morning, especially at Saturday morning at that exact time that they did around 9 a.m. is when the stock market shuts down and closes and there's no money being transferred. So if you're going to do something that's highly illegal, shutting down the whole fucking internet, you would do it when there's going to be no money that gets lost. You wouldn't do it on the high point of pricing when all the money's being exchanged because that causes the FBI to look into it more.
Yeah.
And it's like, do we realize that Google like might have more power than we think? Like next thing you know, they're controlling more. I mean, we know they monitor our phones in a sense. So it's like, where does that go? I don't know. We're in a weird fucking world right now where I'm like, I'll take a clone. Because if I know a clone of myself is going to come up to my doorstep and fight me, I'll be more than happy to kick my own fucking ass compared to trying to fight something I can't fucking see that's just on the internet and starts uploading fucking whatever the fuck they want to there. All this,
Right.
like Russian troll farms. The top 20 sites in the States are Russian troll farms. Have you seen
Yeah.
that shit?
Yeah. 1 second.
Yeah, get
Uh,
it out. Gets
yeah.
you higher too when you do that too.
uh, I think we're good now. Yeah. I've heard about that before, like the whole scams and like they did a lot of the propaganda shit that really started off the whole thing that was going on with the Trump thing and all that back then. And just
Election
like
fraud.
learning that a lot of like the Pizzagate scandal came from a lot of Russian propaganda websites that were being set up to look like American, you know, factoid news things. So it's like really interesting. Like, huh?
I didn't
If they're
think the
doing that,
Pizzagate
like,
thing was 100% bad. I know people go like,
oh yeah,
"What?" I'm like, I mean, you have people that are willing to try and stop kids from being molested. Like, are we not saying that's not happening somewhere? I mean, has Epstein just gone away? Like he had a whole fucking island where I'm like, I hope
hmm.
somebody's getting paid now by the government to fucking investigate some of these islands. Be like, "Hey,
Oh for sure they have to be.
show me your goddamn basement." It's like,
Nothing's ever nothing's ever as easy as like, oh, here we go, we're just gonna go do this now. It's like, oh, we have to write paperwork about it, we gotta do this about it first, we gotta fucking make sure this about it, and it's like it's
like
gonna be years before they get into it.
I'll get labeled a conspiracy theorist, but I'm like, I'm not a conspiracy person at all. But to think that something like that isn't happening at a scale, like
Oh
it's
yeah.
definitely got to be happening somewhere. It's just about, do we know about it yet? Now, I do think a lot of this stuff goes a little bit too far, but I mean, I'm happy someone out there's like got tinfoil hat on and fucking skepticizing about all this shit. That's important shit. That's what makes society so fucking diverse, which is like back to the cloning thing. Honestly, at any moment, an asteroid could hit us and we could be fucking wiped off this fucking planet. The fact that it hasn't happened yet, or some type of global catastrophe that hasn't reset the clock hasn't happened yet is fucking amazing. But if we
We got
can
close.
If we can clone ourselves and put ourselves on another planet, then if Station A goes down, Station B is still alive. So the human society starts going and keeps producing and producing and producing. Now, some people don't like that idea because they think humans fucking ruin everything they touch. In a sense, sure, but I mean, it's all survival as well too. I'm pretty sure there's probably other species out there or another dimension out there where someone's
Mhm.
doing the exact same shit.
Well, it's like there's that theory of humanity itself that we started off on another planet somewhere, and then we destroyed that planet, so we sent off the best organisms we had and anything that could survive on another planet and just hope for the best. And then it landed on this planet, and this planet was the perfect place to sprout us, basically. So we were just another form of whatever we were before. And so if we do that cloning thing, maybe that's the next, like I said, evolutionary step of we just send the next best organisms that could survive, clones.
Hmm. See, I've talked to plenty of astronomers, astrophysicists, the whole scale of the board when it comes to space. And the idea
Mm-hmm.
of exoplanets is just planets that could sustain human capabilities, which leads into the extraterrestrial thing, which is that we're only looking for signs of life compared to what our signs of life are, not what other signs. I mean, there could be a whole race of fucking rock people.
Yeah, it's
You know,
like my buddy Ryan was saying. He's like, "How do you know there's extra life out there? How do you know we're not the most intelligent life that could be out there?" And I was like, "Well, how do you know there's life out there that's not even like a humanoid shape? Like perhaps on
it's a
another
fucking
planet,
turd.
yeah, somewhere on another planet, instead of them evolving into humanoids, it was a humanoid type that evolved into an organism. So maybe there's like a gas planet where there's actual living gas that's sentient that can talk to each other. That because that's what he evolved into."
I really do love theories about this stuff because I love to hear
Mhm.
everybody's thoughts about this. But it goes back to like we were saying before, the physical or mental, which is going to expand faster. I
Yeah.
mean, if we look at like eventually we won't need our bodies anymore. We could just live through some type of artificial cloud or some type of data stream server that could just be in multiple places. That's probably where we'll end up going. If it
A
goes to the
brain in a
metaverse
jar.
where we live in a fucking digital reality, you're
Yeah.
going to have satellites scattered all over the fucking solar system that are just going to have a little tiny chip in it that just keeps spreading and spreading and spreading until it covers the whole fucking everything, every single galaxy out there, Milky Way outside of that galaxy. And then
Right.
it's all got all of our consciousnesses in there. So you never, that will fucking suck, man.
Will
Oh
it
my
though? Maybe it won't.
God. No, I fucking, I don't want any of that shit, dude.
Maybe it
Unless
just
I'm
be like
getting
hanging with friends.
superpowers and shit.
Um, or maybe it'd be like you ever see the show Doom Patrol?
I
Ever heard
fucking
of it?
love that show.
Right, it's pretty fucking sick. The character Crazy Jane. Maybe we'll end up like that, just a bunch of people inside one head.
I because it gets, and then like there's obviously the religious people that come after it, which is just like it doesn't make sense because like they're the whole idea, like when I'm talking to people who are trying to study extraterrestrial life or UAP stuff, they get a lot of flack from people who are involved in religious studies and all these
Of
types of things.
course.
Only because if they start thinking that like, oh, why is this alien coming over and seeing art? Like, what about us makes us so fucking interesting? Well, there's a lot
Mhm.
of factors in there as well too. I don't think it's because we're interesting. I think if you start seeing like a little like nuke go off, you're kind of like, hey, these motherfuckers just learned how to blow shit up. Let's fucking make sure that doesn't leak out of their atmosphere. Um,
Well,
but I think it leads into a bigger point is that if there's aliens coming here because they destroyed their own planet and they're looking for another planet to sustain life on, then the religious people go, well, wouldn't Jesus would have just saved them from that, right? Because he's the savior. It's like, look, dude, like what are you fucking we're all going down these rabbit holes now where I'm getting
yeah,
lost and I
yeah.
just want to fucking strap myself in and just be like, look, I'm gonna go wherever you take me, but don't fucking Bible beat the shit out of me on the way there.
No, I hear that. It's like I say all the time. Like, what if Jesus was an alien? What if the reason why he knew magic tricks, he could turn things into water or do all this crazy shit with his magic, because he actually had like alien powers. Maybe he was the first Superman. Who knows?
So that's a fair point. Fair point.
But they couldn't exactly be like, oh, he was a hero or he's a super person. They just realized, oh, he's a son of God. And then, of course, there's gonna be people that will be like, "Oh, that's not true. There's no such thing, or couldn't be possible." So that's why he got fucked up.
Do
If
you
he was
ever
real.
think it's just like the rapid growth of intelligence? Like I think we've all met someone who's like seems like they're way more advanced than everybody else mentally.
Oh yeah.
Um, And I think that's kind of like maybe what Jesus was, if there was one, if there was this savior, or if it wasn't just a person. Because that's the issue too. It's like, do you really put it above humankind, even though it's happening today? Do you think it was different 2,000 years ago with just people wanting to feel fucking special?
Hmm.
Like a lot of these experiencer stories I hear, I don't think they're wrong. I don't think
No.
maybe that's their reality, but also it's like, where's the proof? And they're like, you
Hmm.
can't show the proof. And that's becomes an issue because how many people do we know are more than willing to make up a fucking story all to sound cool or interesting?
Yeah. Well, it's like maybe he was just a really nice guy that really did help a lot of people, and that's why people are just like, that's not how you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be selfish. You're supposed to be, take for you and only worry about what you and have and you and your own. So it was weird that he was out there doing stuff for other people. They were like, I don't know about that Jesus dude.
I just start questioning more. I'm like, look, I don't really want to follow anything that puts into text that God hates people who are gay. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, man? You
Yeah.
think a being that has all that magical power is still fucking here? No, he's on Mars, fucking making porns with aliens. That's what I'd be doing.
Yeah, it's like, do you really think he gives a shit where you stick your dick or who or with or what?
I just started thinking deeper on the fact of like we're in one galaxy right now and there's other galaxies out there. So I'm like, and our fucking like your state is huge. Like just your state in general compared to like you is just huge. It's going to take you, depending on where you live, like an hour or two to get out of your fucking state. Then
Yeah.
you got to think about the country. Then you got to think about the world. Then you got to think about our solar system. Then you got to think what's outside of our solar system into another galaxy and then another. What goes farther than that? We don't know. It's literally
Well,
infinite nothingness expanding upon infinite nothingness, where I just sit there eating a bagel like, fuck.
that's why I don't get the flat earthers, like how they can be like, oh, you can't see a curvature of the earth, you can't see that, and it's
You
like,
can't.
you can't because you're fucking small. Like, think about being like
You're
a tiny
telling me
little
the earth
prick.
isn't flat?
Yeah.
What?
I'll tell you.
No, I'm not. I'm not one of those. I'm not one of those at
I
all.
figured as much.
I
I
am
knew
a.
you're smart
I
enough.
am a fake. I am the fake the moon landing person.
Oh, really?
What I think is that we didn't get there when we said we got there.
Hmm.
I think we got there later, only because I look at the competitiveness that was happening between the space race, where I just go, man, if you start hearing that they already got an astronaut in outer space, you're at this point like we're gonna make it to the moon first, man. If you're there was no, we weren't even up there yet, so I was
But
like,
did you
that's what
think
I start
that's?
going like maybe they faked it and they just went up there later.
Do you think maybe that's the Russian propaganda to be like, so that you'd think that America didn't get there first, so that you would have that, bit of doubt in your mind that maybe we didn't do it, kind of thing. So they'd be like, yeah, that's right, you didn't, because we did it.
I'm only examining it off of the basis of I know from what we've seen government wise, especially in the States, and then
Hmm.
government wise with any of our leaders right now, especially like the trucker union and fucking with Trudeau that's happening right now.
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
even know the whole scope of that, but I'm just seeing like a bunch of memes
It's-
about it.
I'm not 100% sure either. I just know they're driving all the way to Ottawa from Alberta, I think, and to basically yell at Trudeau to say stop the mandates for us truckers and stuff.
Is that
Yeah,
far?
yeah, it's like pretty much half across the country, I think. They're saying right now that the convoy will be like almost from one city to another. Almost by the time it gets there, it should be like just one city to another of a convoy.
What like hours wise? How many
Yeah,
hours
like
would it
three
take?
hours worth
It
of
take
like
that's
waiting.
it.
Yeah, like right now, that's what they're saying. It's like affecting traffic for 3 hours basically every
Oh,
time they go near a city.
okay. I thought you were like it's a 15-hour drive. I'm like, holy shit, fuck that, man.
No, it's a pretty far drive. It's a pretty long drive. I don't know exactly how long it is because I'm not good with that kind of shit.
I mean, maybe no
But I
clones
know
at all.
there's
Maybe just let the asteroid come and hit everybody. If the
who knows one
population
day.
was reduced, man, which is eventually going to happen,
Hmm.
mostly because I feel like the generations that are coming up now, they're waiting way longer to have kids. And I
Hmm.
think that puts all it's just strange. I think recently I checked the national debt count and then I checked like the world average of people being born in the States per year, or not even
Free
per
time on
year,
your hands.
just watching the clock, like how many
Yeah.
people are being born per day compared to how much money are we spending per day. the money is way, way fucking higher. And the population thing is just slowly, drastically just getting a little bit slower, a little bit slower, a little bit slower. And I'm like, there's going to be a big gap in generations eventually. I think that's what we
Mhm.
need. I think the world is in a lot of trouble, not only because of like the societal systems that are set into place, but also that you have a lot of generations of kids growing up
Mhm.
that there used to be a gap. There used to be like your dad was in his 50s and then you were kind of born, or
Yeah.
your dad was in their 40s and then you were born. There's a giant generational gap. Now you're having like generations that are going to be counting by like every 5 years. It's like that you can't do that.
Well, I think maybe it's something like with our grandparents, they came home from the war and stuff like that, the whole baby boom thing, right? And then their kids, our parents, went through like the free love state, and the 60s and the 70s, and so like they kind of were more fooling around, being more involved with sex and stuff like that. So they started having younger pregnancies, and then our generation X or whatever the hell it is, um, they started having kids at a very young age, like 16, 18.
How old do you
Now,
think I am?
what?
I'm not Generation X.
Well, isn't Generation X? Because I know, like, because I'm
I'm
32.
millennial.
Yeah, so a millennial comes after Generation X, I do believe, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm saying like, but like our brothers or sisters, whatever, they're Generation X. So like they
No, wait, X, it's X and then it's Z and then it's millennial.
is it?
I'm only 20. I'm in my 20s, man. Early
Oh, really?
20s.
Oh no, I thought you were like at least 30.
Fuck, I got to stop smoking cigarettes.
Well, I thought maybe you're 30 because like I see your list of podcasts that you have, and it's just into the thousands. I'm like, holy motherfucker! Like
We're getting
this
there.
motherfucker's grinding like a goddamn beast.
I've been taking weekends off now with the once I hit 1,000, I start doing weekends off.
That's good.
Surprisingly, it really fucks up like my whole like because daily I would have to be like, I gotta record this, I gotta record this. Now I'm having like weeks off and shit. I'm like, this is fucking great. I'm not pulling my fucking hair out. I'm
Yeah.
fucking just it's 5 days a week. I'm like, that's not bad at all.
Hmm. That's why I had to take a hiatus. I was having a lot of trouble with some things, and just our editor guy had to quit on us because he just couldn't do it anymore. He had a lot of shit on his plate, so I had to learn how to edit my podcast and edit things and do things my way, kind of thing.
I don't really do a whole lot of editing unless someone's mic is really bad. Then I try and
Hmm.
clear that up a little bit. But I really just it's 100% like there's no like we don't me and you aren't pausing and then talking about where we're going to talk next. We kind of just flow.
Hmm.
And then like that's I mean that's what conversation kind of is, which makes my show really easy to do. Like if I was doing a scripted show, I don't think I could do it. Like I have people that like were giving me questions to ask this person. I was like, fuck, man, I can't, I'm not even good at remembering shit. I just speak off the top of the dome and hopefully I don't fucking say something I'm gonna regret, which I think I've been pretty good at like I'm
Oh, yeah,
open-minded and I haven't really said anything where it's like
you'll piss
that's
somebody else sooner or later. It doesn't really matter.
I pissed plenty of people off.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what you say. You'll end up pissing somebody off.
Sorry
I think that's
in
part of the human
advance.
race, though. You know,
Well, anything you
arguments.
do is going to piss somebody off. That's why like
Yeah,
people are like, "Oh my god, the world's just so much in chaos. Everybody fighting at each other." I'm like, "It's always been like that. It's just now it's
exactly.
got
That's what I.
it's an easier form by social media now." But I'm like,
Yeah,
"You're not going to like every single person in the world and you're not going to hate every single person in the world. That's okay."
yeah. It's like I see on Twitter all the time. It's like this game sucks, and so I was like, well, I liked it. I thought it was a good game. Like people hating on Cyberpunk 2077. I thought it was an alright game. It had its bugs. It had some problems with it, but I still had fun playing it. I had a fucking hell of a time playing it. And it's
Well,
just
like
like some people just
pick
you
this
can't
in
like
this
everything and you can't like everybody.
pick this into scale. You pick your state, or when you get older and you're able to move out of your state, you pick what state you want to live in based on what that area has that's going to be more comfortable for you and something that you might want to live in. Most of the time, it's how people choose where they want to live, the area, all that type of stuff.
Right.
Eventually, it's going to not be your state, it's going to be your planet. So eventually, you're just going to have planets of people that think exactly the same. Where now you got future wars that are going to be happening based on Mars is going to be attacking Earth because all Earth is just filled with fucking old people who just want to retire. You know, that's, I mean, pick if you're going to send old people to a planet, pick one that doesn't have any fucking gravity. Like Mars is
Yeah.
like what, 3 times the gravity or something like that?
Oh shit. Again, don't know. I'll
Like
take your word for it.
you'll be strong as fuck, but at the same time, you're gonna be in fucking pain.
Well, yeah. Isn't that what they say? Like, or like the astronauts have to go through when they're up in space, that they piss out their bone matter because it like they're since of no gravity and all this stuff, that if they're up there for so long that they start actually peeing out like bits of their, like, not bits of their bone, but like their body is like, I don't know, I forget the fucking actual terms for it,
Jesus Christ.
but it's just crazy shit like that happens when you stay too long up in space and anti-gravity. So like they have to fix that kind of shit.
I just
That's why,
remember watching the
yeah.
video of the astronaut when he came back to Earth and he was doing an interview and he grabs his bottle of water and he goes like just drop it midair and he drops it midair and it falls to the ground. He's like, oh yeah, gravity. Like he was just like ready to place it like he was talking in space or something like that. It didn't even like he wasn't trying to example something. He was just like,
Yeah,
yeah, I know what you're talking about. He would like drop it, fell to the ground. He's like, what the fuck?
yeah, fuck with your head, man. Be up there for long enough.
Well, I mean, it's like I think that's a fear for a lot of people of being alone. Like I like being alone. I spend probably most of my time alone. But there are times like I've talked about before and recently I've been thinking about, there's times when you wake up in the middle of the night and you stare up at your ceiling and you're looking at the fucking popcorn ceiling and it's just you want someone to ask you like, what are you thinking about?
Mhm.
Instead of just yourself in your head, like, why are you thinking this? Like, I noticed that, like, if I ever get high, I was always really self-criticized on shit. Like,
Right.
that's why I don't do it. Like, for me, like, when I see you do like the live videos and shit where you're smoking and going over to, that gives me a mass psychosis. Like, I can't fucking handle it because all I would think about is like, I'd have a 45-minute conversation with myself
Mhm.
about something dumb as shit, like picking out pants. And I'm
That's like
like,
half my podcast.
why the fuck are why am I doing this? But it's kind of like, you're not really who you are. I'm like, what are you talking about? Who I'm not who I am? You're not real. What do you mean I'm not real? Really, you're not better than anybody else. You're literally going to work right now. I'm like, what does that work? Yeah, because we need money. What? You're progressing someone else's life and someone else's business. Is that life to you? Well, not really, but I mean, I guess I have to do it because everyone else does it. Why are you going to be like everyone else? You're exception to the rules. You are God and everyone else is Satan. You are going to slay every single person. I'm like, why are you so aggressive? Am I aggressive or am I just making up for lost fucking time? And then I'm like, man, I don't like this side of me. Well, guess what, motherfucker? You just got high. And I'm like, all right, dude, chill. Like, that's my fucking brain.
I think I'm the opposite.
Give me a fucking round of applause for that shit. Holy hell.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it's like, for me, I think that's my brain regularly, constantly thinking, constantly going through what to do next. What am I doing wrong? What's wrong? Why am I not at a certain stage I should be at 32? Um, but then I get high. It's like, man, relax. You're 30 fucking two. You still got lots of time to get shit done. You're working on shit. You started a podcast now. You got shit going. Like, we'll get there. Life ain't a race. It's the human race, yeah, but it's all about just enjoying the journey as well as taking the journey.
I'm fucking glad you said that because I'm 24 thinking like I might as well just fucking drive my car off a cliff. I fucking holy shit, man.
Like I said, man, you're in the thousands of, like, podcasting might not mean something to some people, but like it's something you're doing that you're passionate about, right? And instead of just working every day and doing your life, at least you're doing something that you're passionate about.
I
Having
have proved
conversations.
that
Yeah.
consistency is bullshit. People like you need consistency to succeed. Fuck them. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, well, time. Time is also another key factor in shit too.
I think it's that mass time consumption that scares a lot of people. And that's why I get scared about where technology goes because I know we're going to miss a fucking step. There's
Hmm.
nowhere in society throughout any part of history where that couldn't be improved by insight thinking or foresight thinking. When I was doing the 9/11 episode of the show, I was reading all the 9/11 documents, and they literally put in a section in the actual or the actual released commission report. They said
Hmm.
hindsight, and the whole thing says now this is all hindsight now seeing and looking back on it that we couldn't have known this at the time. So please, after reading this, do not look at it like, well, you knew this. No, this was all found out after. And I was like,
Hmm.
see, that's the thing is like if you could look through history, any part of history could have been improved. And then people go, well, then if you mess up time, then we wouldn't be living in the society we'll have now. Yeah, but you're used to what it is now and you don't want it to get worse. What happens if it got fucking better? What
Yeah.
happens if we wouldn't know what, you know, uh, uh, pedophilia was. We wouldn't know what all these fucking horrible things that people do. And even worse, that our fucking governments do it. That's
Mhm.
what's even more fucking nuts is the manipulational mind tactics. It's like when I fucking, people go like, well, you just got to sometimes bite your tongue. Fuck that. Walk away. Just
Yeah.
leave them be. Let them die. I don't know. What do you want me to say? I love everybody. I really do. I really
True.
give everybody the time of day. But there
Mhm.
are some people who are like, you're really just bad for me. Like, you're just a bad energy. And it's like, yes, I
Mhm.
want the whole world to die. And that even sucks when the voice that says that is inside your fucking head. Because then you're like, I can't escape you.
Well, yeah, it's like we've had some people in our lifetime where, like, in our friendship group here, where it's been kind of hard because like they're just so negative and so down about everything. It's like, well, we really don't want to include you if that's what you're gonna be like all the time. Because like we get it, like life sucks and life's not the easiest for everybody. But you gotta look for the happy things too, man. You gotta keep an eye on the things
But
that are positive in life, or else your life's just gonna continually suck if you
it's
just look
hard to
at the
feel
negative.
happy when you feel like you're fucking robbed all the time.
It is true.
I think in a sense people are right about that, but I don't think you should be blaming just sitting there blaming something because you'll never get change out of your life. I think it just gets really hard because you start seeing like people succeed in such a way. Like, how do they succeed? You start like Neil Young. They removed
Mhm.
Neil Young shit off Spotify because he was like, I'm gonna take my music off unless you take off Joe Rogan. Some person, I'll try and find it. I think Shane Gillis put it on his Twitter.
Mhm.
Dude, it's linked to Pfizer.
Hmm.
I was like, what the fuck? Because like a dude did a video. He's like, Neil Young sang this out of nowhere. Who the fuck's Neil Young? I don't know. My generation probably doesn't know. But they
Yeah,
start
he's a
going
singer.
into his record company, his billboard company. The same billboard company is the same person who the person who owns that billboard company is the same manager for Pfizer. And you're like, how many people who have said something about Joe Rogan have an in with Pfizer? Like, I'm fucking curious now. You know what I mean? This is where we get to the
Well, I think
conspiratorial stuff.
well, yeah, because also he's misinformation spreading kind of thing too, right? And all that going on. So it's like perhaps maybe yeah, there was a thing that included the guy who owned Pfizer or included someone part of Pfizer in some way. But again, that comes back to our nature of wanting to find things that connect. Like everything has to connect. That's part of human brains. Like we have to see the things like a puzzle, and we can see the puzzles connecting here and there, and it just all fits too perfectly.
I
And that's how
blame
most conspiracy theories happen.
I blame murder crime podcasts, or not even podcasts, just TV shows where everyone looks like it's a reality fucking thing because everyone's trying to be their own fucking home detective. I'm like, you're not a
Yeah.
fucking detective, bro. Like, you're just not. Like, all right, so I'm gonna share screen this with you so you can see what I see.
Okay.
Let me know when it pops up on your screen.
Okay. Oh, there it is.
So it's Neil Young's music playing, and then Google pops up. It says, who owns Neil Young's music? Earlier this month, Young sold 50% of his songwriting copyrights to the UK of Hip Genosis Songs Fund Company. Look it up on Wikipedia. Start playing a little bit of this. Scroll down, down, down. It's $138.4 million owned by the Blackstone Group in 2021. Invest $1 billion. Blackstone announced his appointment of Jeffrey B. Kindler, former chairman and CEO of Pfizer, as senior advisor.
Mhm.
Like, what the? That's it. All the way from Neil Young. Why is he randomly just saying this? And then his record company was bought by this company who the main person is appointed Jeffrey B. Kindler, former chairman and CEO of Pfizer. So you
Well,
start going like, is it misinformation? I have no clue. But at the same time,
it
is it
sounds
out
like
of the realm of possibility for
yeah.
people to want to work together? Google, Facebook. When you type in on Google, type in anything with an A. You know
Mhm.
what you get?
No.
Amazon. You get Amazon. You know why? Because Google's biggest advertising production relationship is Amazon. It's
Mhm.
businesses helping businesses. I think everyone's now starting to realize through the past like year or so is that these corporations that are giving you these luxuries of these social media networks and all this stuff, they've been advertising to you the whole entire fucking time. It's just manipulational stuff. There's a
Hmm.
guy on a Joe Rogan podcast, Robert Epstein, not related to Jeffrey Epstein. No.
Oh, I don't
Um,
know. There could be some
yeah,
similarities there, though.
correlations.
Yeah.
But he's been vocal about a lot of like the programming, the monitoring of your devices through Alexa, the monitoring when your battery on your phone, you check it, it's like at 68. You're like, what the fuck? It was just at 90 something percent like a couple hours ago. I haven't even touched it. It's
Yeah.
slowly sending bits of data. That's why your phone is like, and it's recording you at all times, basically.
Yeah,
It's why you'll get an advertisement.
that's
I
like that
just,
meme.
well, it's like, I'm not against people go like, well, this is horrible. Like, we shouldn't be being advertised to. Yeah, we shouldn't. We shouldn't let them have this much power into our lives. But you got to understand is that you own the device and that's their product. They're going to do whatever they want to do with it.
Mhm.
Your rights aside. I mean, they can blur the lines as much as they want. The issue is when Google can shut down the whole fucking internet. They don't own the internet.
Yeah.
They're a massive search provider on it. But people go,
Well, I
well,
don't think
well,
like
if Google was down, then that means Yahoo was open. No, because if you don't have the browser installed on your computer, most people are using Chrome. My computer the other day had Windows 11 update on it that's been sitting there for a week. Now it's
yeah.
not there anymore. It automatically updated to Windows 11. And it
Mhm.
asked me, are you sure you'll not be able to update it if you hit no? I said no, because Windows 11 tracks you more than Windows 10 does. And it's like,
Mhm.
I don't ever use this computer ever only to do a podcast. But when I do a podcast, I type in the craziest shit. Like I type in like William Colby assassinated by CIA, pedophilia ring question mark. And I'm like, fucking what the fuck? Like,
True. Well, it's like who was it? I forget who said it. Someone was saying about how commercials back in the day, like when you sat there and watched your favorite TV show or whatever, you would sit there and let's say you're watching Seinfeld on a Friday night, and then the commercials that come on, are gonna be like car commercials, beer commercials, all this stuff set for that person that's watching that show, right? And now we're all on our phones and stuff. So most of our phones, like if you like a thing about uh let's say a certain brand of clothing line or whatever like that, all of a sudden you start seeing those ads everywhere on your phone. Like Facebook will start showing those ads of those clothing line, or Instagram will start showing those ads. And everyone's like, well, my phone's listening to me. It's like, well, no, your phone, it's basically going, well, I don't want to show you something you won't buy, so I'll show you something you probably will buy.
well, that's like we'll go back to the evolution talk. That translates
Mhm.
over to evolution as well too. Now, every time you go on your device or every time you go this, the ease of access to what you want to find is right there for you instead of you searching for it. That's why I think conspiratorial people, like, you're going to see a branch off, whether it's people that are working out all the time or conspiracy people, than people that just want to follow the system in a way. If you think that our system isn't trying to play you like a fucking fool, then you're fucking insane. Of course it is. But it's what are they doing and how are
Mhm.
they doing it? Not everything, but some things for sure they're definitely manipulating. I think anybody in the world will say the government isn't 100% honest and true. I'm
No,
pretty
no.
sure everybody agrees with that. But we start landing into some weird territory where even with academia, for instance, me and you were talking off air about this a little bit before. These academia institutions that are blocking people from researching something all because they have a conflict of emotion with the people that they're going to research into. Like, let's say a tobacco corporation is funding an institution, which it's happened before. Let's say
Mhm.
Marlboro is giving $4 million to Harvard.
Mhm.
Okay. Now, if someone wants to research big tobacco control and try and literally make a slam article about them, the institution will go up to that researcher and be like, hey, you can't do this research. We don't approve of it. And you're like, why? And it's like, we don't want you to, because we don't think it's of interest. We think it's a conspiratorial type thinking. And you're like, well, I'm going to research it anyway, because you're not giving me a right answer. They go,
Mhm.
okay, well, we're going to move you to a different state. We're going to uproot your whole life and move you to a different state. I can't just uproot my family. My kids go to school here and they just got used to it. I can't do that to my family. Well, then I guess we're done. And then they cancel you out of their institution. You lose all your grants and funding ship. They just pull it all from you, all
Mhm.
because they had something in a pocket of them. Same thing with the news corporations. Why
No,
you're
no.
telling me that the people that are going to sit there and promote Pfizer after they have a Pfizer ad that plays right before their show, brought to you by Pfizer, you don't
Mhm.
think they're like less willing to talk shit on the company that's giving them fucking money? Like,
Mhm.
it's why I don't have sponsors. Because if a
True.
sponsor says I need you to say this, then I'm like, well, that fucks with my show. Like, I want to be free to do whatever I want. So you got to look for one of those people that want to do this. I'm not going to say smooth my balls every 5 seconds. Fuck that. Go fuck
Oh, you got
yourself.
one of those things too?
Everyone did. Every podcaster in the world. It's about getting their image out there.
I was gonna say, because I got one of those emails too. I was like, oh, that doesn't sound like a real legit thing.
It's the same bullshit as Google Pods. Oh, your podcast is #1 this week. You know why? It's
Yeah.
because you've tweeted at them 1,000 times and got their name through your followers. That's all they
Yeah.
care
Yeah.
about. It changes so fucking much. I don't like that shit. I get it. If you're the person that wants to do that, that's cool. That's not me. I'm not about that. I'm more
Yeah.
about like, I rather be off my phone, off social media, and just do the content, get the guests, talk to the people I want to talk to, and move. I don't have enough minutes of the day to be refreshing my Twitter waiting for the next person to talk shit. I don't, bro. I don't have the mental sanity.
You're right. You're right. It's like I don't really do a whole lot of the social. I run it all, but like I just post, just to keep our name up there, keep people talking about it, keep people, interested in the things we're doing. But like to what you were saying, I'm not huge into social media. Like I'm not like, oh my god, like I gotta see what they're gonna say about me next. But the one thing I did stop doing because I started doing in the beginning was on Twitter there'd be people saying, "Oh, I have a long drive tomorrow. Give me your podcast recommendations, please." Or anybody got any good podcasts? Send them my way, kind of stuff like that. And I was like, oh, okay, I started doing that. Then I started reading some of the comments under there, and there'd be people just constantly giving them their podcast, right? And which is good. You should hand out your podcast. But then they'd come on there and be like, I didn't ask for this. I was hoping my friends would offer me their funny, like, what they think are good podcasts. I wasn't asking for people's fucking personal podcasts. I was like, then why would you ask just recommendations like that? Like,
If you
so I
notice
stopped doing that.
the ones that'll
Yeah,
be trending in your feed, they'll say
yeah,
like they'll have 100 likes and like 200 something comments of like all people's podcast recommendations and stuff.
yeah.
They're just doing it for followers because more times than not, you're gonna follow that person just so they'll follow you back. It's a weird fucking like thing where I started
Hmm.
going, I don't know if I need this in my life, and I'm kind of happy that my like giant blanket of depression is just like making me so fucking miserable and empty on the inside where I'm like, I don't want to, this is just another pain I don't feel like diving into. Like, it's why I
Right.
don't get into virtual reality because I know I'll get sucked into that motherfucker so much where I'll never want to leave. Tits everywhere. I can make an island of tits. That's what's the point anymore? I don't know, but I'm not going to do it. And I start noticing bad things for me where I'm like, I got to cut this out. I have amazing fucking willpower on that
Hmm.
aspect of things. Now, that's not everybody. Some people like the game, some people like doing that. But when I see someone say, like, tips to grow your podcast, or this video is going to show you how to be an excellent creator, content coming, I'm like, fuck you. I don't like any of that motivational shit. I don't like
Yep.
any of that type of stuff. Not that I don't think it's needed. I think there's a
Hmm.
lot of people that really pull something from it, but
Yeah, there's a lot to benefit from all that kind of stuff. Like,
it's not my style, bro.
yeah, like my co-host Ryan, he is really into motivational speakers and stuff, and that's great. There's a lot of great motivational speakers that really have a good message to send you, but then there's those other ones that are just like just trying to get your money, and they're just telling you the same shit that you can tell yourself, like you're a good person. You're just need to work a little harder on what you want in life, and like common sense shit that they're basically like using people and being like, you're not good enough. You should listen to me tell me, or listen to me tell you that you could be good enough. Just pay me money for it. It's like, ugh.
It's like I joined Dane Cook's fucking Twitter space the other night, and he
Yeah.
was just giving out a lot of motivation, like a lot of which I thought was cool. But then
Yeah,
I
yeah.
just I just requested the mic, and then
Mm.
I hopped in. I was like, "Is this good luck, Chuck?" And then like gone. I was gone. I was fucking out.
See, like there are people that need good inspirational things, and that's like I said, it's good that there is something there for those that need it. But I've always looked at it as some kind of charlatan work.
Well, it's like the reason I don't reach out to famous people is only because like they just want a certain scope, a certain view, and I feel like a lot of the times it's just questions and stuff.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily want that. I rather like I'm not saying that I just like for me I just plucked you out of obscurity. I mean, I'm obscure too. But I
Yeah.
don't like you're not like well like I can't just Google your name. I can Google your show, sure, but if I Google your name, there'll probably be other Chris Morses that pop up. Same if you Google my name, the fucking guitar player will pop up.
I was gonna say there's a famous writer that'll probably pop up, Chris Moore.
But that engages more of a real kind of conversation because it's one person not interviewing another person. It's just
Hmm.
two people having a chat, and that's what I think you really need a lot of times. And like especially like going back to the academia thing as well too, what we were talking about off air. You're going to have people that aren't going to like their institutions anymore because
Hmm.
their institutions aren't going to fund them, and they're going to reach out to billionaires. You wonder why all these billionaires don't fucking talk to people or respond to people is because all they have is people asking them for fucking money 24 fucking 7. It gets
Mm-hmm.
a fucking annoying. I emailed Bezos to do my show and
Yeah.
they emailed me back. They said, "Sorry, Robbie. Mr. Bezos is busy at the moment, but we'll keep you in our whatever our book or something like that to be
Right.
able to
Right.
like." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I didn't even expect an email. Like I can pull it up. I posted it on my Twitter. I was like, holy shit, Bezos responded. It was his like PR lady or something.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But I was like, that's cool. Like you start to realize like a lot of times, like for instance, the person I'm Avi Loeb, who I had on the show, I emailed him. He doesn't have social media. So he doesn't know
Mhm.
how big your fucking show is. So he's just going to do it because he wants to do it. And I'm like, that's what I fucking like. I think a lot of people really base things, or not even if they enjoy or they want to be a part of the content, they just see the following count and they scroll off to it. Where I'm just like, does that, do you want that in your life? Like I
Yeah.
kids
It's.
it's getting worse every day with kids on their cell phones. I'm like,
Oh
if
yeah.
it's affecting adults and you're in your 40s tweeting every 5 minutes, you have a fucking issue. Like that's a big
Hmm.
problem.
Well, it's like you have to like because what it's become the piece of art on the fridge. You know, everybody wants to have their piece of art on the fridge. Everybody wants to have that. You know, great. Oh, look at this A plus. Let's put this on the fucking fridge. Look at this awesome fucking little quote this person just said. Let's heart that. Let's retweet that or quote tweet that. Um,
I used to clip episodes from like a certain show that I really enjoyed, like an episode I did, and I would
mhm.
like post it up like, here's a funny moment from this episode. But then the app was like delaying the voices. So like you would say something and the voice would follow it like one of those like old style like kung fu movies. And I
Yeah.
was like, "Up, well, guess I'm not doing this anymore." And I haven't done it since. Like, it's just,
Yeah.
I'm not gonna go pay for an app, or I'm not gonna go find another app to do it better. I don't have the fucking time or patience. My brain's already like, let's write a book. I'm like, write a fucking book about what? Anything you want, killing people. No, because I don't want to write a book about killing people. Come on, we all know you have those thoughts. I mean, sometimes I'd like to wonder what happens if I squeezed my hands against someone's head and crush it like Game of Thrones, but I don't ever act upon those urges. And you know
Are you
why?
an alternate me?
My
Because like I'm literally on the verge of like always going like I should go back to writing because I started writing a book where it's about basically different kind of killing, like different kind of people who kill people, and there's like a whole story arc with it and stuff. But like I keep thinking about that lately. Like I want to do that, and the same thing
do
happened to
it.
me with those video things. I used to do little clippets of our podcast where you can hear like the funny bit, and then come listen to the whole thing later. But the app, like you said, started fucking up on me. It wouldn't let me do my videos. It wouldn't let me do my things. So I was like, "What the fuck? I don't have time to fucking deal with this shit right now. I'm gonna
I've
just
been
fucking."
I've been using digital art to create shit like this.
Yeah, I saw those. It's looking great though. By
Do
the
you,
way,
do you know what that is?
I can't really see it.
It's Atlantis.
It's Atlantis.
It's Atlantis, yeah. I can
Nice.
actually probably pull up the picture of it. Sorry, my fucking amazing lights in the back do not do my self justice, I would say.
Yeah.
But yeah, using digital art to create t-shirts, that's more fun to me because the art fucking machine does it for me basically. This is
Mhm.
fucking great. I don't have to do jack shit. I don't have to go outside where it's 18 fucking degrees. Like I really like I can't stand like when people are like, I'm gonna like go out and do shit when it's like 5 degrees out. I'm like, just fucking stay inside like a normal person. Like, what the fuck are we talking about here? And they're like, what?
Right.
I want to go experience the world. I'm like, what world do you want to experience? You
Mhm.
walking to your mailbox, checking your mail, nobody mailed you anything, and then as you're walking back to your house in a large slate of depression because you have no friends, some person tells you to go fuck yourself because you end up missing the crosswalk. Like, what? I'm sorry, my
Yeah.
examples are a little bit too they always
Personal
go
life.
dark. I don't know how to make them not go dark. They always just hit the dark spot. I'm like, Jesus.
Maybe you need to smoke more weed.
No, that gets even worse. I had to look up the French term for it, but I was always wondering why, like when I got high, if I looked off the edge of something, my
Yeah.
brain would just go like, what happens if we just fell from here? I'm like, why the fuck are we thinking about that right now? So where you're like, you're holding your knees in the middle of your room, like laying on the floor, like way away from the ledge, like, oh shit, I don't want to fall off that edge. My brain's going to throw me off it. I looked it up. The French labeled a term for it called call of
Really?
the void.
Hmm.
It's apparently you don't even have to be high to experience it, but it more likely happens when you are high because you're more thinking in a lot of terms.
Hmm.
Whenever you get to a high ledge, there's a strange phenomenon that happens where you start wondering what happens if you just threw something off of here, what happens if you fell from here. Um, you're probably more mentally healthy if you're not thinking about throwing yourself off. But this is the shirt I'm wearing right now. Is this thing?
Oh, sick. Okay, I see it better now. Yeah, the
It looks
lighting. You
better when I'm not like in a dark fucking room almost, besides the lights behind me.
yeah.
I guess I'll have to fix those for the other 1,000. No, I'm just kidding. But I think like there's a lot of stuff like rare phenomenons, rare stuff like this. I like having the whole conspiratorial. Like I love these
Hmm.
thoughts that start engaging because I think this is where creativity is. The
Hmm.
creativity hasn't left. It's taken a different form because now we have options and avenues and types of devices to do things easier. It's still
Hmm.
there. People really still love like classic old muscle cars. People still really love old school paintings. People still like that general craftsmanship, but now it's taken to a different form, whether that's your thoughts are starting to change, whether that's people in Minecraft building different blocks and shit. Writing. I see a lot more people writing now. I did a page. I did my title of my book was The World's Consensus of Pain, but
Hmm.
I don't know what I'm going to write about. I just fucking was like, I could just talk into the microphone and dictate the words onto the paper. But even then, I would just start ranting about the government after 5 minutes. Like it's always, it's like one of those circle back
That's
books where it always goes back to the fucking government shit.
it's kind of the constant pain of life,
And
for
it's, yeah,
humans.
yeah,
Governments,
taxes.
being governmented, being controlled.
I heard Steve Harvey said it best, and it's had me thinking about money differently. Where they're like, "How much are you going to leave to your kids?" And the, I guess he was talking like George Foreman or something, and George Foreman was like, 500. He's like $500,000 leaving to your kids. He goes, "No, 500 million." He
Hmm.
goes, "You have six fucking kids." And then George Foreman's like, "Yeah, but they're my kin. I don't want them to be without money. I'm not going to leave them with nothing." And then
Hmm.
Steve Harvey, he goes to Steve Harvey, he goes, "What are you gonna leave your kids?" He's like, 10. It was 10 million, 10,000. He goes, "I don't have that fucking money. I'm in debt already." And you start looking at like how many people like pass away and then they have nothing to leave their family, like anything at all. I'm like, that's the one thing. If you really care about family values, if you really care about basically a copy of yourself that's going to venture into this world, never being able to see or talk to you again, that's a real thing you got to think of like, holy shit, I don't want them to be alone. I don't want them to be
Hmm.
without a jacket. I always want to be there at that bus stop when they get off of it. And it's like,
Hmm.
whether that's in the mind or whether that's in physical form, and it has you thinking about things a little bit differently,
Hmm.
introspective.
Well, for sure, it's like anybody who becomes a father or a mother or in the process of all that starts to think differently.
I'm thinking
Because I
about it, leaving it to my goldfish.
Well, I was gonna say is like with me and my girlfriend, my other co-host, we are in the process of trying to get pregnant and stuff.
Congratulations, dude.
And well, we haven't got there yet, but we're trying. and
It'll happen.
and we think, like there are days where I think, well, I gotta think about this again. Like the world is not the most perfect place, but it never has been, and it never will be. And unless I teach my children that, how to be a good person and treat others and not be like the shitty people that you know I grew up around. Like I grew up around a lot of racist people and a lot of shitty people and stuff like that. And I don't. That's not the way I think. I'm not a person that hates a whole lot of anything. Unless you're a bad person, unless you hate and you put hate into the world, then I'll probably hate you.
I hate fucking everyone.
But I mean like that real nasty hate, like the I gotta murder you because you look different, or I gotta murder you because you speak different, or I gotta murder you because you like something that I don't like. You
Straight
know,
to murder. What the
that's
fuck?
what I'm
Like
saying.
you
That
skipped
kind of
like
bad.
five
That
steps.
yeah. So you can hate somebody, that's fine, but I'm not. I'm just saying, don't get to the point where you gotta murder that person just because they're different than you, or because they don't like the same things as you. Let's just we can all just get along once we realize that
I
not
tried
everyone's gonna like everything.
I tried to understand that more, why someone could be like, fuck this person and I want to kill them
Hmm.
and do all this type of stuff. Where I'm like, are you just talking just to talk? Or do you actually feel like you are going to try and kill that person? And then it starts boiling down to even more like Michael Vick and dogfighting.
Hmm.
like I started looking at that more when I started hearing Michael Vick talk about it more. Now, say
Mhm.
what you want about Michael Vick, but another side to him in his interview when he talked about all this openly was that he could have easily filed for bankruptcy. So he didn't have to pay back the millions of dollars, but instead he paid it all back and he didn't file bankruptcy. He paid it back with his own work money and to all the sponsors that he lost during that whole situation where he went to jail. So he did that out of his pocket. First of all, that's respect to him because a lot of people would just took the easy way out. Second, he goes, nobody ever told me this was wrong. He goes, I never had someone teach me that this shit was wrong. He goes, you see it on TV or you see something like that in a movie. He goes, you think you can do it too. And
Mhm.
now that is a little bit ignorant because you know you're not supposed to kill people, even though you can see it on TV. But it just has you thinking about stuff a little bit more, where it just goes like, I guess through your mindset, like it's why I try to put myself in situations where someone can go like, "You're a flat earther." It's like, well, I got to put myself in that person's fucking
Mhm.
shoes. NASA's lied to you in the past. They've CGI'd photos of the Earth, the very first pano shot they got of it, where it looked like a globe. They CGI'd clouds on that motherfucker, and they admitted to doing it. So now you've opened up the door for now they think that you've lied to them once. What makes you think that you're above lying to them
Mhm.
again? So that makes it understandable. Now, I think we all know that there are some arguments that go a little bit farther. They also think that Hitler's going to be reincarnated because there's a certain place in Antarctica that's named the same thing as Berlin Arctic or something like
Mhm.
that, which they think is tied to Berlin, Germany, which is tied to the Nazi program, which is a whole nother fucking rabbit hole. That is a
Yeah.
little bit harder to understand, but I think if you can just kind of take yourself out of your own mindset for a minute to try and examine it through the person's lens, which is almost impossible to do, but there's still the willingness to try. If you
Mhm.
make that effort, you start to realize that and really like once you see the way broadly, you see it in all things,
Mhm.
like you start to
Well,
examine more and more and more.
then there's the people that are like, there was that guy who murdered somebody, but he was really rich, and so he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I was never really taught right from wrong because I'm so rich."
Mhm.
And he got off because, again, he wasn't taught right from wrong, so he couldn't possibly have known murdering that person was wrong.
I don't think you should get off for that, but I think you should be probably conditioned or put in some type of rehabilitation thing to be able to understand more so to make sure it doesn't happen again because that's still a
Yeah.
life that's gone. Um, but it also gets to a point where if you look at like fuck, I forgot my example I was gonna say.
Been there, done that.
Well, we're going all over the board, so I feel like we're always like hopping into something different. So I was trying to stick with that same thing. There was yep, it's gone. It's not coming back. It's like some people
Awful.
think drugs differently. Some people are like, cocaine, that's a poor man's drug. And you're like, well,
Yeah.
what are you talking about? Because they've done it so much that it's like, oh, it's fucking old to me. But to some people, it's like, holy shit, cocaine. Like I remember when I first saw cocaine,
Mhm.
I was like, oh my God, like you want some? I'm like, holy fucking shit, don't shit your pants right now. That's cocaine. And that's a massive Scarface amount on your table.
Right.
But that's normal to them because they've just been a part of that life. They've been so accustomed to it. It's kind of like I'm happy I never got used to like the whole drug sales sketchiness of pot. Like whenever you would hang out with someone, be like, yeah, man. All right, well, I guess I'll catch you tomorrow. And they just keep lingering around and smoking your pot with you. That to me was always so foreign where I'm like, I'm glad that was never normalized because to some people, that's like their whole fucking life. And that's really fucking scary to me because it's like, I'm not saying that person's in a worse situation. It's just like,
Yeah.
I don't know, just not being able to trust people is like the biggest thing to me. Like the dude that trusted me, he let me watch his newborn baby that I've never fucking watched before play his
Yeah.
Xbox while he had a mound of cocaine sitting on his table. Like I was like, what the? And this is the second time hanging out with this guy. I was like, but everyone knows I don't really do drugs like at all.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, Rob's not going to steal your drugs. He doesn't do drugs. He's like, well, they could sell it. He goes, Rob's not going to, he doesn't have the fucking time. His mind's already off on doing something else. He's not going to try and sit and do a sketchy drug deal.
What kind of people do you think Rob knows?
Yeah, I'm fucking glad that people think I'm so vanilla in that aspect. Like,
It's like one time I was hanging out with I went back to my friend's place because you were moving him over, and he lives in Ajax, Toronto area, and so we're moving to London, and we went to his place to grab his stuff, well, his brother's place, and I was just standing out front, just sitting there, like kind of my arms crossed, full of my, like chief looking like stance, and his brother shows up. His brother pulls in. He looks over at me, just sees me, and I just give him this big smile, like, kind of thing, like, "Hey, how's it going?" right? And he walks up and he's like, he sees my friend. He's like, for a second I was a little worried because I see this big fucking guy standing here with his arms crossed, sitting there all stoic like. And then he smiled at me. I was like, "Oh, never mind. This guy's good." His smile, that guy has a smile that you can trust. You can trust that smile.
I'll never forget my cousin was staying with us over the summer. It was like 2 years ago. And
Mhm.
he's like in his 30s. He's out in Colorado, like living it up, or I
Yeah.
guess just doing drugs. I don't know. But I remember like it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. I get up out of like my bed to go to the bathroom. And as I go to open up my bathroom door, this giant, like 6'3" African American fellow comes out of the bathroom wearing a bath bath towel around his waist.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hey. And then I just walk into the bathroom. Never seen this guy in my entire life. It did just not even register. My cousin's sitting there in the chair out like outside of the fucking room, like, like, cause thinking I'm about to scream because there's this random stranger in the fucking house. He didn't tell anybody was coming over at 2 o'clock in the morning to use the fucking shower. And my cousin's like, oh my God. And he just like, I just like get out of the bathroom, flush, I'd flush, do whatever, come back out, go into my bed. He opens up my door and goes, how did you not fucking scream? I'm like, dude, I don't get scared. I don't get startled. I don't get any of that shit. He goes, I don't want to ask questions. I just want to fucking do my shit and be done. Like, that's it. I had to pee. That was the task at hand. Then I'm going back to bed because you're not going to address this 6 foot, like 2 guy in your house. Like that would scare the shit out of anybody. Because I thought you were going to scream. And I was like, no, I don't care. I'm going back to bed. I think this is all a fucking dream. Like, it's just that type of simplicity. I'm like, look,
Yeah.
ignorance is bliss, but knowledge is power. It's a double-edged sword because the
Mhm.
more knowledge you know, the more you're aware of. You should always be aware to keep on surviving, but also bliss. Don't you just want to not have to worry? But the more knowledge you have, the more you worry, the more that you know, the more you're aware. But at the same time, the less you know, the worse off you actually might be as well, too. It's a weird double-edged sword, man, and this whole conflict that is life in a sense.
Well, that's the problem is there's so much information out there. It's like, and so much of it contradicts each other. It's kind of like you have to really, really source what you want to know, and that's why I think ignorant is bliss comes more easily for people because it's like, well, I don't want to go through 6 different articles of the same fucking thing just so I can see all the discrepancies and be like, okay, well, who do I really want to believe and what they're saying and what's going on and stuff. So it's getting harder because of all, like you said before, all these news stations that are like, oh well, I don't want to say this because this person's giving us money, or I can't say this because this person owns the station, or I can't say this because we're a Republican station. If I start going against that, then they're gonna fire me probably.
Well, it's like hear no evil, see no evil. But
Mm-hmm.
the weird part with a lot of these news corporations is that they've already built up the audiences that lean the way that they think that they lean.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's something about like there was that Biden, apparently a real phone call came out with the Ukraine president where he was saying it was all going to be okay and that we were going to support them with like all this type of stuff. He didn't say that at all. The real phone call came out. CNN took that phone call down and Fox News talked about it. Like, people want to hear the truth. They don't, and some people want to hear their narrative. And sadly, with how low these news stations get audience wise, most of the time people are reading articles about their news,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not even really reading. They just see the headline of it and they fucking run with it,
Yeah.
and or they'll retweet it or something. Twitter has become the biggest news source in the past 2 years. It, it's
For a lot of
it's
people, yeah.
it used to be Facebook. Now it's fucking Twitter. But then like CNN, they have what I think like a 500,000 following or something like that that follows them religiously listener wise. They don't if they say anything like there's this that just came out, if that goes against what they've done all in the past, even though it might be the truth, they're going to lose their followers because their
Mm-hmm.
followers just want to tune in to hear their narrative. And that's what like Joe Rogan's probably getting a lot of shit about. 11 million audience listening. Like the man, especially for me, I've talked to plenty of people. I understand his whole thing. I don't have
Mm-hmm.
you've talked to me. I don't have any biases on anything. I'm just
Yeah.
here having a conversation. We're going to hear it out. To a lot of people, you haven't talked to enough people to realize that not everybody agrees with your narrative. My following,
Exactly.
my follower list, or people I follow on Twitter or whatever, they're people from all edges of the board, people I agree with and people I don't. Honestly, I
Mm-hmm.
think you more times than not need to probably leave other people alone and just worry about your own fucking self. Like I put up a post on my Twitter that got like one person retweeted it to their fucking followers thinking that it was going to spark up a bunch of people giving me shit about COVID. Cause I was like, I had COVID, didn't post about it.
Right, I saw
Didn't
that.
didn't take anything to get better. Sorry, I got better. I'll die next time.
Yeah, yeah.
Because like that's what people want. They want to hear that you're either you got the shot or and you beat it, or that you die because you didn't have it. And it's like I don't think necessarily people believe that they want that. They just are so ramped up because that's all social media does. When you don't see someone's face, you don't know a person, you don't really give a fuck about them. Now you can understand why billionaires are doing the things that they want to do. They don't know you. Why the fuck would they want to give you $1 million out of the kindness of their fucking heart because you have a funny fucking joke that you put in a tweet? They don't give a shit. They want to fucking fuck bitches and get money.
Yeah, yeah. Sorry. Yeah, I saw that your tweet about the COVID thing, and I think it's funny that
Still
I'm
can't
not
smell.
in the what?
Still can't smell.
Oh shit!
It's
Yeah,
been a
see,
fucking month, dude. I heard someone had it for a year. I was like, oh, dude, fuck me, man. My nose
yeah,
sucks anyway, but still.
yeah. Well, I was gonna say is like, because I've known that there are people that have died from it and stuff like that, and there are people that have survived it who never got the shot. And I'm not in the camp of either you get the shot and survive it, and or you get, because there's people that think that you get the shot you'll never get it. It's like, well, that's not true. It just makes it so that you won't really have a hard time with it. You'll recover faster. You might regain your smell quicker. Who knows?
I don't even
But
take Tylenol. So like that whole
right,
argument is like I just let my body naturally handle it. If I got to the ice, I wouldn't even go to the ICU if I was dying. I'd be like, it's my time then. Fuck it.
yeah. That's like our neighbor. Our neighbor does like, he doesn't really take medicine. He doesn't like taking pills or anything like that, and stuff like this. So, I'm pretty sure he would have done the same thing. He wouldn't have taken anything for it. But like I was saying is that I'm also not in the camp that thinks that if you don't get the shots, you're gonna die from this. Like everybody has the same kind of probably immune to it, like, or not immune to it, but like will have the same kind of reaction to it, or harsher reaction to it, or less reaction to it. It really depends on the person's body and stuff like this, I think. And I'm
I've
not a
worked out
scientist. I have
every
no
day
idea.
for 10 years.
Yeah. And that's
I'm,
what they're saying, right? Is
yeah,
that people
I'm
who are more
fucking
healthy
good.
bodies will probably be able to fight this off. That's what Joe Rogan's whole thing is, right? Fat people are the ones that are going to die from this. And coming from a fat person, that's why I'm,
Well, it's
doing
not
what I
even
can to.
it's not even obesity thing. It's
Yeah.
also some aspects when it comes to just comorbidities. Even like if you have a preconditioned illness already onto you, like I have a digestive disease issue that really fucks me up sometimes. But it's like
Hmm.
other people that are recovering from like a low immune deficiency disorder or something like that, man, that's if you go in with that for the rest of your life, then yeah, you should be a little bit more worried about that. And I think you should get disability as well too. You shouldn't have to be forced to go to work out and that shit. Like
Yeah.
people are going to live their lives. People are going to do what they want to do. I don't like people trying to think that they can control their people's lives. They've gotten away with doing it for so fucking long. I mean, they told you it was going to be 2 weeks. You were going to be inside your house, and that moved to 2.5 months. I think
Hmm.
everyone's just forgetting how all these steps have gone. Like people think like, well, there was COVID, and then it goes straight to the vaccine. It's like, you understand there was a whole fucking period of time we didn't have one. Like, don't
Hmm.
forget what that pain was like. Seriously,
Hmm.
remember that shit because you're
Hmm.
gonna not think consciously about a lot of decisions that come up in your life. And I don't really want to sit and talk about COVID because every
Yeah.
fucking podcast I listen to now fucking talks about it. I'm like, all right,
Yeah. We avoid that too on our podcast. That's like, we avoid a lot of like the social stuff that's going on right at the very moment. We might talk about things just as it happens because we're a stoner podcast, so we'll just randomly talk about shit, and sometimes that kind of shit does pop up, but we don't dwell on it long. We try not to get too serious because we are a comedy slash stoner information podcast.
does anything whenever you smoke, does anything ever feel like about yourself that feels improved?
Hmm.
Like sometimes I get so high I could think really, really hard and manipulate the molecules in my hand to be able to phase through a wall.
Well, like I said, it calms my mind. I'm always constantly having these ideas and thoughts and things going right through my head. So when I smoke a bowl, I can start to like slow things down and be like, okay, put this here. We'll talk about this there. We'll like put that over there. Or I can slow things down. Like, okay, I'm just gonna sit here and play video games. I'll forget about all this shit. And I'm gonna sit here and play some Fallout New Vegas and just fucking shoot things and loot boxes.
I found out why I couldn't handle it. I looked it up. There's a small percentage of the population that deal with like a mass psychosis from taking any amount of like just THC in their body. And I think that's
Hmm.
me. And I was like, all right, well, I mean, at least I know that. There was here's the funny thing is like when I do my show, I like to get both sides of the pool onto the show and stuff. I like to go all over the board and just ask questions. A woman wrote a book about her son overdosing on pot. And
Interesting.
then also another person, like if you look up tweets about like cannabis induced mass psychosis or cannabis induced psychosis, there's a lot of people. And I mean, not like super, like probably the majority, it's more like a very, very small percentage that experience a mass psychosis every time they get high, like something where it
Hmm.
puts them in a panic and has ruined their lives. I want to talk to those people because like I think you don't hear a lot about that. Now I'm not now for me, if you're going to ask my personal opinion, do I think marijuana should be illegal? I don't give a fuck what you want. Now,
Mhm.
jokingly, I would say make that shit illegal as fuck because I've been in those really high stages where on my birthday I was given an edible that I was told was a 5 milligram. It was a 50.
Oh shit.
I don't do that stuff. I knew exactly when it fucking hit. I literally got up from the recliner. I went, oh my fucking God, you lied to me. He goes, what? I was like, it just fucking hit. I feel it now. And I went in the bathroom for 45 fucking minutes. I left, got out of the bathroom. I was like, dude, why the fuck did you do that to me? He goes, you're good. Just roll with it. I was like, I was in the bathroom for 45 minutes. He goes, you were in there for 2 minutes. I was like, don't fucking lie to me. And the whole night was the shit. But I'm just saying there's that percentage of the population that can't handle it. And I think that also needs to be talked about too, because the idea that anything is 100% good or 100% bad, no, that's with
Well, it's
anything in the
also
world.
the percentage of people that can't handle their alcohol.
I
You
can
know,
handle
like
it pretty fucking well. I just can't handle pot.
it's what I mean. Like, there's people I know that they have one drink and they get real sloppy or they get real pukey, and it's just like they can't handle that kind of into that stuff in their system.
That's
Um,
all I want to that's all I want to see though, is like that's how I try and be is that whenever someone says this is 100% this, I go, well, what about the other side? Like that's the
mhm.
thing is that everyone's sale pitched only the good stuff about a product, never the bad stuff. I was
Well,
like,
yeah.
if
How
you're
are you gonna
gonna
sell
say it,
it?
like when you do an advertisement, you hear the person go, it's going to clear up your acne in 12 hours. I have no acne no more. Did you hear the act or the what is it, the proactive commercials when they were talking about the side effects in it? A long list of them was like bleeding from your
Hmm.
eyes, severe deafness, like bloody diarrhea, all this shit with the fast voice at the ending. So it's like
Hmm.
nobody hears that shit. They just see the person smiling and hanging with their friends because they're not fucking horribly dysmorphed by their acne. Like
Right.
now, for me, I get it. You want to let everyone know the good stuff and not the bad stuff about your product. But I also think if you just come to the table clean and let people decide if they're going to buy it or not based on just like the options that you tell them, I like that type of world better. Like if you
Hmm.
tell me, hey, there's a small percentage chance that you're going to get into a car crash whenever you drive your car. I'm already accepting that unspoken deal. But I think if more people knew about that option or that kind of percentage chance, I think life's a gamble, man. And I think you need to know both of the options when you go to the table. You can't just have the one. Anytime I hear one person saying, if you take this hemp supplement, you will be the best you will ever be. You'll be more. I'm like, what's the bad part about it? What do you make it with? Is it child slave labor that you're making it with? They're like, we
Yeah.
don't want to talk about that. I'm like, well, let's fucking talk about it.
Well, I was
So
gonna
I
just
could
say it's
tip you an
like
extra $5 for the fucking little child that's breaking their fucking fingers to the bone.
I was gonna say is that like when it comes to the pot thing, I think it takes like people have it like it comes in different forms for people. I think so that there's people ways to try it. Maybe smoking isn't for everybody because it can hurt the lungs, it can hurt the throat. Eating it like edibles that might work for more people because it's a different reaction when you eat it. It's a completely different high when you eat them. I think
I think you're right too. And I also think you should add on to that, that make sure that you're with people that you're comfortable smoking pot with or doing these drugs
always.
with. Don't be in an awkward scenario or you're really going to fuck your life up.
Hmm. And like I know there's a lot of people that think drugs are horrible things and stuff like that, but I think if they legalize more drugs, there'd be less death and less harsh drugs out there that are killing people. It'd be more pure. It'd be more acceptable and like accessible. Like right now in Canada, pot is legal, so you can buy it at like these pot stores that are just like the LCBO and beer store and stuff like that, and it's great. you know, because I don't have to go to a dingy, dark apartment or, you know, anywhere sketchy to get my pot anymore, or I don't have to wait 4 hours for my, you know, my guy to come pick it up or deliver it to me. So like,
I agree with you on that too. Like I went to school for chemical dependency and I switched it to psychology, but that was my like nobody talks about the massive amount of opioid addiction that's been happening of recent. Like it's
mhm,
been happening for a long time, but it's at like a peak high right now.
mhm,
I lost like I mean like 5 friends in a fucking year to it. And that was just not even 2 years ago. Like
mhm,
it was horrible. And when I remember I was going to school for it, like when it first started, it was just a couple kids, and then it kept growing and growing and growing. I think that it should be 100% legal. I think you need to find ways to make it where it's not like people going to dark, horrible places to be able to do so, sketchy areas and that type of shit. If you made it more accessible going to a store, you have more people with a better experience to it. I
yeah,
also
cleaner needles, cleaner, you know, locations for them to go and do things, like a safe place to do things like that.
That's a hard argument on that one too. I agree with you too, but a lot of people hearing that they're like, "What?" It's like, no, it's like you got to. There's a guy, Dr. Carl Hunt. He did his TED talk on meth. Like he's took
Mhm.
crystal meth and he did a TED talk on crystal meth. He didn't just do a TED talk about meth. He did a TED talk on meth.
Med
But
talk.
he really kind of opened up my eyes to a lot of like the whole drug side of things, where everything bone in my body or every knowledge that I've learned about it has been like to fight this person on it. But when you hear him talk about it, like, yeah, you can do it in a reasonable manner. I think a lot of the issues that people overdose on, I've had 2 guests from the show throughout the whole episodes I've done, which it happens. I mean, throughout my show, I've talked to like 3 generations before. I've talked to a
Mhm.
grandfather, I've talked to a son, and I've talked to the son, the grandson,
Hmm.
all on the show. But I've had 2 people overdose on a bad Percocet. Now, if it wasn't made improperly by some person just making it out of their fucking kitchen or something like that, then they might still be here today. So, I'm conflicted, but I see both sides of the thing. I think that there should be more of legalization. A past guest of mine is one of the main movement people in Canada, or is it Toronto, with the psychedelics, making that legalization. Or no,
Yeah.
Nova Scotia is what it is. Nova Scotia.
Okay.
Um, I think there's a point to it all. I've talked to the whole board, good and bad. You can see a lot of it, and maybe a lot of it
Mhm.
does boil down to someone sticking their hands in it who necessarily doesn't know anything about this. It's with vaping juice, for instance. There's been a whole vaping ban where I have to sign a package every single time, when before they could have left it at my doorstep. And even now, it's harder to distribute based on laws in your state of getting vape juice, because some places don't want anything to do with it.
Hmm.
But everyone knows about vape juice killing kids and people getting popcorn lung, but nobody talks about how it was from the THC ones, not from the actual vape juice ones. And that was because kids were making their own THC vape juice. You
Mhm.
need to go to a reputable store to get it. And that sucks too, because that store can jack up their fucking prices now that they're the only one that does it. And that's why you have kids that are making their own.
Mhm.
It's every conflict of society is a tail, it's a snake that's biting its own tail. There's ways to fix this stuff, but I don't think anybody's necessarily looking into it or doing the proper research, either because they can't or something's
Mhm.
not letting them do that. I definitely think tobacco industries have a lot of hands in a lot of businesses, much like Disney fucking does. And nobody talks about that shit. Can I rant about that for a minute? Why is it that some people go to Disney World and they see Mickey Mouse in a costume? But to me, I look at it as a person on a 100-degree day in a fucking costume, probably dealing with a severe rash, that is literally trying their hardest not to drown you in the fucking cheese river. Like,
Because you're an adult.
no, that's not it. I know plenty of adults that go to that fucking place and are like, had a fun trip at Disney World, and they're
Oh,
wearing the hats and shit, and they got a
yeah,
picture with
because they're a
Goofy.
kid. They're trying to capture their kid at heart. Because ultimately, those parks are for kids. You know, and I'll
They
admit it.
serve beer though.
Yeah. Well, who's taking the kids? Adults.
But I
You're
want to
gonna go
know.
there and have to deal with fucking Mickey Mouse there,
I just
jumping
want to
around in the hot degree weather, and being like, I'm gonna have a beer for you, motherfucker. I know you can't have it, so I'm gonna have one for you."
I just want to know, what else do they have their hands in? Because to say that they're not involved in other shit, why are they have to be involved in other shit. They're not
Well,
just a production in a park. They are literally owning almost everything. You're telling me they make shoes. I
yeah.
guarantee you they have a hand in like vaccine distribution. I bet you they fucking do.
Well, here's the fucked up thing is about Disney. I find is that they own Stars now. The program Stars, or the fucking
Yeah.
whatever streaming service
On demand.
Stars. And so on Twitter, they had an ad for the new Tommy and Pamela movie, the Pamela Anderson Tommy Lee movie. I don't know if you've ever heard about them.
Mm-mm.
Uh, Basically, Pamela Anderson was like a supermodel. She was on Baywatch. She had big tits, blonde hair, and Tommy Lee was the drummer for Motley Crue. So they had a relationship back in the 80s and 90s, and they had a sex tape and everything like that, where that was their biggest claim to fame for them, was this big sex tape where they fucked for hours on a boat. And so now Disney has something on their streaming service, which is basically the biography of that sex tape. Is that
What the
not the most
fuck?
fucked up thing ever?
See, I'm telling you, there's just a lot of people are just branching outside of their thing, and I'm not mad at a corporation for doing that, but I also think it becomes such a dominated market that if you're like a self-producing person, you don't have a fucking shot, man. You don't
I think it's
have
just greed.
independent films. Like, come on, that's going to be a dying art eventually because you don't ever really get to see them on giant streaming platforms unless it's Netflix, and that's because Netflix is
Well,
just trying to shove a bunch of
Amazon.
shit out there. Bezos is like fucking. I don't. I fucking
There's
love
always
him.
a
I
bunch of
do.
weird indie shit on there, and like, cause they own like IFFC or IFC, whatever the fuck it is, which is basically like an indie movie, film channel, based indie film channel.
You know who Tommy Lee's dating now or married to now?
No,
Brittany Furlan, the lady who did all the Vine star stuff.
who the fuck is that?
She was a popular Vine star when Vine was a thing before it became like TikTok.
See, I'm 32, so I wasn't into Vine when it came out. I found about Vine like a week after they basically stopped doing Vines. I started watching them on YouTube, all the like the crazy Vines of like the guy with the watermelon thing. I forget his name.
Watermelon.
Yeah, he was
There's
fucking
a knife in
hilarious.
my home made of watermelon. I'm
Yeah,
like, yes, this is
he was
great.
great. There's a couple other ones. There's like the guy who says things incorrectly or pronouncing things incorrectly. He's pretty funny.
Um, it's hard because with any of these things, you got to look at like the other hand that's not being shown to you. And that is like with Facebook, it's with all these different things. Facebook admitted that their fact checkers weren't fact checkers, just opinion based people that are hijacking the term fact. That was an article that came out. Now, if you
Hmm.
think Facebook just admitted to doing that, how many other services out there are doing the same exact shit? How come
Hmm.
every time Twitter reposts an article saying fact checkers state it's off of exactly what I heard on Joe Rogan? It's like they're just fucking listening to his show and trying to do damage control.
Or
Like,
going to Snopes or
yeah, and
Router
Snopes has
Reuters.
bias too. Guardian has bias. Everything has bias. Where I'm like, but when I pull up an article from one of these sites, I'm like, everyone switched the whole Wuhan narrative. Everyone's going back to that. Like, yeah, it might have came from there, but hey, we're not going to worry about that. I'm like, I've been calling it from the beginning. Where are the fucking people that told me I was wrong? But at the same time, it's like everything's so flip floppy. I mean, eventually they're going to say that, Trump was right. You could fucking drink Tide and you'll be okay. I'm like, oh, dude, what the fuck are we
Well,
talking about
I
now?
don't think it's gonna get that crazy.
You don't know, dude. I don't even know, man. The world's so fucked right now. If you say go out there reading tarot cards, people will be like, oh, you're telling me, oh my God. It's like before everyone used to laugh at that. I had my tarot cards read on air before, and
Really?
everything he said came fucking true, except a couple of things that haven't happened yet. So I just got to make sure in November I'm not doing legs ever because he said my knee was going to go out. People were like, don't let him read your tarot cards in there. That's private information. I'm like, I don't fucking give a shit, dude. He was like, you're going to meet the love of your life. And you see my face like, oh my God, what does she look like? They're like, she's shorter, dark hair. And he starts describing the person. I'm like, my mom? And he's like, well, no, not your mom. But what's she doing later? I'm like, all right, dude, if I can get to my fucking fortune or whatever you're trying to read. And you see my face. He goes, "You're gonna meet her, but you're gonna lose her. She was the love of your life, and you're gonna break up." And I'm like, "What? Why would I break up if she's the love of my life and she's hot?" And he goes, "Because she's a white supremacist." And you just see my face go, "Yep, that'll do it. That'll do
Yeah.
it."
That'll put a damper in the
I
relationship
was
real
not
quick.
expecting that answer too. I was like, "Holy fuck, that'll do it." Yeah, but it was so quick. But it's like, yeah, it's that type of shit. Like I like looking back at my show and seeing moments like that where some people are like, "Oh my God, you did what on air?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, found out Larry King was dead on air. My fucking reaction was priceless.
Oh yeah.
I watched the hope glimmer out of my eyes because we were joking about like Applebee's or something like that. It was my
Mhm.
buddy Chris Morano was on. I think it was his second time on. Like, say what now? I think I titled it.
Mhm.
But I'm talking to him and I was like describing like, oh, you got a bunch of like old hockey sticks and jerseys on the wall, describing Applebee's. And I was gonna say a picture of Reagan, not Reagan, Regis Philbin, but I knew he died. So I went with a safer bet. I'm like, and then he got some signed picture of Larry King off to the side. He goes, oh man, why you got to bring up Larry? I'm like, what about Larry? He goes, Larry died today. I'm like, are you fucking serious? And I fucking Googled it. I'm like, oh my God, 2 hours ago. He goes, I thought you were doing a segue into Larry King. Is this the first time you just found out he died? I was like, yes, I didn't know. I was like, that shit's priceless. That's the shit I like, is that natural fucking thing like that. You can't do scripted stuff like that. It doesn't work.
Yeah. It's kind of funny. It's like when Meatloaf passed away last week. I think it's kind of funny because the night before we were gonna have meatloaf for dinner, but then I was like, I don't really feel like doing all that work to make it. We'll just have it tomorrow. The next day I wake up, meatloaf is dead. I'm like, fuck. It's like I used to like listen to that music and stuff.
If
And I
you
was
would
like,
have ate
God
his,
damn.
if you would have ate Meatloaf that night, he probably wouldn't have died.
Maybe.
Maybe he just needed one
You'll never
person in the
know.
world to eat meatloaf for dinner or something, and you were that one person. It was your time, and then you fucking passed it up.
Yeah. So we had it the next night in honor of meatloaf.
And then Death was like, "Our deal is up." He goes, "What?" All one person had to do was eat meatloaf that night. And he goes, "Yep," and nobody ate meatloaf tonight. And you're like, "Oh my God, my immortality is gone."
If only that's how it worked.
It's like that's how the old lore about that old blues guitar player who sold his soul for the devil to be really good at music. I forgot what his name was. BB. It's not BB King, was it?
No. Oh fuck, I can't remember it either. It was a really old blues singer.
But man, I would like to live in that time period where you can make up something like that. People would fucking believe it. I mean, it still happens today. People believe the dumbest shit now.
Yeah, I
But
was gonna say, what are you talking about? You live in that time.
I don't know. That was more translated to this. Like, if you try and say that you're the son of fucking Frank Sinatra, which there is the person that they think might be the illegitimate son of Frank Sinatra.
Wasn't there like 16 illegitimate children of Prince?
I believe it. That man used to get his fucking drugs at CVS and he used to pick them up in person. Imagine working at a fucking CVS and Prince just walks in.
Fuck man, imagine just working for Prince. That guy was crazy. I heard some of the crazy stories from like different celebrities you listen to. Just whew.
Yeah, I mean, most celebrities are fucking crazy, man.
I think the more eccentric ones are the ones that were always going to be crazy, but they were just discovered before crazy went too far.
The true story of the 1963 kidnapping of Frank Sinatra Jr. What the fuck are we talking about? I don't know what I just found, but we're going to look at this real quick. And then we're going to see the
Speaking,
illegitimate son of Frank Sinatra.
well, speaking of cloning though, my girlfriend she was listening to I guess the grandsons of Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash, and they sound fucking pretty right on with how they sound. So maybe they got cloned. Maybe those aren't the grandkids; they're just clones.
A new podcast narrated by John Stamos. What the fuck is John Stamos doing? Go back to making full. A couple days after JFK's November 1963 assassination, Barry Keenan led Frank Sinatra's son, 19-year-old Frank Sinatra Jr., out of his hotel room in Lake Tahoe at gunpoint. He drove him to a house in Los Angeles where he locked him away for 4 days while demanding $240,000 in ransom from his superstar father. Keenan and his co-conspirators got their money, but were caught and arrested soon after Jr. was released and later convicted in a widely covered court case. A new Wandery podcast produced and narrated by John Stamos called The Grand Scheme Snatching Sinatra retells the kidnapping from the perspective of Keenan, the mastermind behind the now infamous scheme. Why would you imagine if your dad fucking had to pay $240,000 because you were kidnapped and they weren't going to let you go until they got the money, and your dad was just like, fly me to the moon. You're like, Dad, fucking help me. And he's like, fuck you. And then he just fucking like, oh my God, I would never want to test. I mean, I wouldn't have to. I'm pretty sure my dad would pay it. But, I don't know. People surprise me some fucking times, man. Like,
Well, it depends. Like, there
where
are
was
people
my
out there.
Merry Christmas, motherfucker? Have fun. And hangs up the phone. You're like, Dad.
Well, it's like there's who was it? Was it Patty Hearst? when she was kidnapped, and they ransomed her for her father because her father was a big time big wig that had a lot of money, and he was gonna pay it, I guess. But then they were like, no, 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 we don't deal with like kidnappers like that. We'll say we won't pay until they return her or something like this. There was a big thing about it, and apparently like the kidnappers were able to uh convince Patty Hearst that her father didn't care about her, that like they weren't going to pay the ransom for her and all this stuff. I'm pretty sure that's who it is. And so like she turned on her parents and basically became part of the gang that kidnapped her. I think it's
The
a big huge thing.
So apparently the actress's name or the lady's name is Mia Farrow. Um, her son might possibly be Frank Sinatra's illegitimate kid.
Huh.
And I think people started noticing it because his face, people like were comparing photos of Frank Sinatra with Ronan Farrow, and they were like, this looks really fucking. That's hard though. I mean, I don't know. He doesn't look. I'm trying to look at pictures of him right now. It's his hair that fucking does it to me. Pull it up.
How was his voice? Can he sing like Sinatra?
Yeah, but sometimes you don't always get the fucking voice, man. So this is the guy. It's the suit that does it for me. If you wear a suit, I think you automatically look like fucking Sinatra.
He could just say he looks like Sinatra or is the son of or whatever, and just try to sing like him, and people will probably give him a fucking $1 million contract.
His says Ronan is the son of actress Mia Farrow and director Woody Allen. He became estranged from his father after Allen married Farrow's adoptive daughter. I fucking remember that. I don't even remember that. I remember hearing that somewhere. There's pictures of Woody Farrell with his adoptive daughter, and she's like young. I mean, like 9, and sitting on his lap at a fucking basketball game. And then next thing you know, she waits till she's 18 and fucking marries her. What a sick son of a bitch.
Yep.
And he was in How I Met Your Mother.
Yeah, he's I've never been a real fan of it. I don't really know much of his movies or anything like that, and it's a very fucked up story, that one is.
I don't know.
And yeah, back then, a lot of people were just like, "Oh, that Woody Allen, what a fucking guy."
It's weird because girls like older guys, but when they get older, they like younger guys. Like I know plenty of people, even people that I used to work with, that are dating someone that's like 10, 15 years above them. But then when an older guy dates a younger girl, it's creepy. But when a girl dates an older guy, it's like, okay. But then when it's the other way around, like an older woman dates a younger guy, you're happy. But then you don't ever look at her as creepy. Like it's weird because like if you look up the number of people like teachers that have been arrested for fooling around with their students, the guy teacher goes away every single fucking time for a very long time. But then if it's like an older woman and a younger guy, it's like the story of That's My Boy. They give the fucking kid a high five. Like he's like, that's my boy. It's like,
we males in the society, yes, say that and do that, but a lot of the females in society think not, and they will.
Of course, females are gonna fight the other fucking female teachers that are fooling around with boys because they're fucking females too. But like, if you look at like the general consensus, most judges are male, and they're doing a court case about that. Yeah, they're not gonna fucking let the guy off easy. They'll let the woman off easy.
Right. That's the thing, right? It's like that's the trouble with the pardon me. That's the trouble with like the society, is that even if you look at some of these murder cases where the what do you call it? The murderer is an attractive person, they seem to, not get as much time or get as extensive a sentence, or they're so media attracted. Like there's all this media footage about it because this attractive person killed somebody or this attractive person was murdered. So there's a bunch of media coverage on it. But if that person wasn't attractive, good looking, then they're probably going to be, well, who cares about this person? Next case, next murder case, next fucking, or if they're really ugly and they murdered a pretty person, then they're probably gonna get some coverage. That's the way society works. Is that we're more about shiny and good looking things and nice and new than anything battered and old and rough.
There was a I'm trying to look up the video. I don't think I'm going to be able to find it. But there was a video. A guy had on the old Opie and Anthony show, Anthony Cumia, when he was on radio and stuff. They
Yeah.
would pull up pictures of like people doing the same exact crime, and depending on their looks, they would guess if that person was going to jail or not. And they'd be like, a hot girl would pop up. It was her mugshot. And they'd be like, oh, she's getting a slap on the wrist and walking away. Like they're getting nothing. And they checked. She got like 6 months and was fucking
Yeah.
off on like a horrible crime, but she was hot. And
Mm-hmm.
then next thing you know, it's like the next one, same crime. They're like, oh, that's 25 to fucking life, because she was just like not attractive. And you look at it, yeah, the jail spent 15 years for the same exact crime the other person did. People bring up the argument, well, it's the judge. It's like, yeah, in some cases, yeah, some judges are really religious. And if you say you found Christ, you can get a whole lesser sentence and everything because of that too. I don't know. There's definitely not, there's unfair advantages, and then there's other unfair advantages on the other side as well too. Like people that say like that, what I was talking about earlier, that's been dismissed multiple times. Women make 75 to every dollar a man makes is a fucking myth. It was a thing posted by The Guardian that Obama made an announcement about and then retracted his fucking statement. It was a lie. They didn't base it. And Jordan Peterson, all these people have dismissed this 100%. They did the average income for male and female, but they did different jobs. Like the average number of people who become engineers, it's more male. The average people that become teachers is more female. But people hear that fucking thing from that old article. They see the headline, they don't see the retraction. So they think 75 to a dollar. I've worked with mostly women, most of my job field, and I've mostly been a minority in every single position, make the same amount of money. If anything, they make a little bit more because they actually have a higher position than me. You get paid on the basis of the work that you do. Now, in some cases, there might be that obscure thing as well, too. I have no clue. But the large scale, that whole myth of that, I've dismissed it so many times on this show, and people can get upset about it. It triggers you. Look it up. They base those incomes off of teachers versus engineers, because more people are engineers that are male and more people are female are teachers. Of course, a teacher isn't going to make the same as an engineer. If you're an engineer today, you have a fucking construction degree or you have some type of bridge welding certificate or something like that, you're getting fucking bank, man. You're set for life. It's like owning an HVAC license. I have one of those. I don't fucking use it because I just fucking hate the cold. But it's these unfair advantages. The only thing I can really see that in is if you talk about maybe getting a job based on your looks. If an attractive guy gets a job compared to an attractive woman, a lot of times people want to stare at something that's attractive to them. You have a secretary, you don't want someone who's unattractive, which would make more sense if you were wanting someone to be unattractive, so you weren't ever attracted to them. You'd only cared about the position that they were in for the job. But old school Wall Street types, that's all they fucking cared about. They didn't care about the work that they had because they already had money. They cared about being happy at the job that they were in, which meant to them eye googling. Like when I at my work, for instance, we'll see people come in with sunglasses. You're not wearing sunglasses inside unless you're a fucking douchebag, you got an eye problem, or you're just staring at fucking chicks. And that's what these old people do. They fucking stare with sunglasses on. It's the perps fucking tool bag. It's like their arsenal weapon that they pull out.
Right.
Now, what I just said probably might, I could tell you, seem like you pull back from me a little bit. That's okay. Look it up. I'm telling you, it's fucking real in this thing. The basis of society of sex. I don't care. It's okay for people to use their looks to get ahead. But if they're being condemned by their looks, then it's an issue. That's the weird fucking snake tail thing we don't ever talk about in society. If you see that she got a job because she's a woman, now do you only want women in this job? Is that why you're giving her the job, or is she actually best at what she does? Now it seems like the whole anti-racism thing actually seems to be more racist in a sense. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So like how you're thinking, like back when affirmative action was a thing. Was this person getting the job just because they were good for the job, or because they needed to have another person of color?
Yeah.
So that they can say, oh, look, we hire people of color.
Like, hey, sit in this boardroom real quick while we take this picture, then get the fuck out.
Yeah. Right. Whereas now I think that's kind of still happens in certain cases. I'm pretty sure that has to. That shit probably still happens in a lot of places. But I
It
think
happens to me.
nowadays,
I get
yeah,
yelled at on my show. I get someone that messages me saying, "Why? How come you only talk to white people?" I'm like, I've talked to everyone.
hello.
That to them, they're like, "Oh, that person's white." I'm like, "No, that person's Native American. I'm pretty sure,
Yeah,
right?"
yes, thank you.
Yeah. Fucking, I'm really good at guessing a person's like where they're from. Like I'll be
Well,
like, "You're German," and they're like, "What? How'd you know that?" I didn't even speak. It's like because I could just fucking see it in your face. I don't know what it is.
yeah, it's they either get because I got the mustache and beard going on,
I
so
couldn't
they
tell
either
because
get Mexican
you
or
got that windscreen up.
hey man, so I don't make popping sounds.
But that's the thing is that people just want to say like, oh, what do you only talk to this? I'm like, no, I talk. If you look at my history of my show, I've talked to everyone. I literally have. But most of the time, I'm messaging a page that has a logo or something, so I never get to
Yeah,
see the person's face. I'll talk to anyone who's willing to have a conversation. But
exactly. Yeah.
people want to find a way where it's like you're not doing this. They want to find how the system is unfair so they can just
Mhm.
blame that. And I'm like, I don't think that's that 100% of the time. I think it's largely happening, but I think a lot of what makes your own success is the fact that you're doing what you possibly can to be successful. If you understand you're a podcaster, you want to be popular from doing a podcast, you got to understand you're fighting a sea of content out there.
Oh
So you
yeah.
got to do whatever makes you different from everybody else. If that means be yourself, then do that. And you
Hmm.
will succeed at what you do, at least in the sense of succeeding as you got to be happy. That's what you
Exactly.
got to look at, not the basis of are you living it or are you buying Bugattis? I don't think that's a possibility for a lot of people. I don't think it's a possibility for me. The fact that I was able to get a person from Joe Rogan's podcast on my show was fucking astounding.
Right?
But
Yeah. Like,
I'm not the type that to get that thing. I think a lot of people got to understand is that you got to do what makes you happy. And if doing what makes you happy makes you, sorry, I thought my blanket fell off my fucking thing. If doing what makes you happy is the simplest thing that's never going to get you that thing of stardom, make sure your eyes aren't just seeing the perks of something, not actually the happiness that goes with it.
yeah, exactly. Um, like I say to my girlfriend all the time, like we started this podcast not because we're gonna make millions of dollars off of it or anything like that. It's because we've always wanted to do a podcast. We've always wanted to sit down with our friends, get high, and just talk about the random shit that we normally would talk about anyways. And that, we always end up having good laughs about. And we always figured there's got to be at least someone out there, at least one other person, even if it's just one, that thinks the way we do, laughs at the same stupid shit that we laugh at, and we get along with just listening to our theories about things that they can be like, well, I don't think that way, but this is how I think. They can message us, and interact with us, and then we can bring it up on pod about how, you know, because like you said, we're not about, oh, we don't want to talk to this person because they think that way. It's like, no, we want to talk to that person. We want to know how they think. We want to learn why they think that way. Maybe they can help us understand why maybe we can think that way, or why we don't want to think that way exactly.
I will admit that there's people I don't want to talk to, and that's Gary V types.
What?
It's so Gary V, the
Who's
motivational
that?
speaker guy.
Oh.
He's like, you know
That
why
shit.
you're not achieving shit? Because you're not doing shit. I'm like, fuck you. How about
Oh yeah,
this?
that shit. That's what I was saying earlier about how there's just so many motivational speakers that are just saying the shit that you already fucking know. Like,
I
why am I
can't.
giving you fucking money just to tell me that I'm not doing shit that I know I'm not fucking doing?
I always tell people who are like writing a book about something, I'll ask about the book and all that type of stuff. But I was like, the best way to promote the book is not by saying, by not promoting it, by not even talking about it. And they're like, yeah, you just don't want me to talk about my book. I was like, no, it's because people want to like you and then they'll buy the book. Like that's the thing is that people want to know who you are. People can go to any store and look at a book and read the details about it. They don't give a shit about that. But do they like the author who's taken the black and white photo holding a rose in their mouth? Like that's who they want to fucking like. And I'm like, that's the best way to do it. Like your personality, they'll keep watching your stuff. They'll keep being you. They'll keep doing whatever. They
Hmm.
necessarily, it's sometimes about the content, of course, but I think it's more about the content of the person you're watching. Like I've seen plenty of shows where I don't really care for what they're talking about, but I like the people who are on it. So I'm going to
Hmm.
watch it because yeah,
Yeah.
people want to just feel like that sense of connection. When Dane Cook does a Twitter space, it resonates with a lot of people because he's taking the time out of his day to talk to people. Now,
Right.
it's not their responsibility to do that, but it's technically going above and beyond to just connect as a human. And I think
Hmm.
that's important as well, too.
Staying grounded with your fans is probably always a good thing because, like, That's what I like. What I like about Kevin Smith a lot is that he does like constant updates about his health to let people know how he's doing in his life. It's not like him rubbing it in people's faces like I'm doing healthy, haha. It's like, this is what I'm doing. You know,
I'm
just
doing
like a regular
healthy.
person. I'm going out for a long walk, a long hike to keep my health up.
I love what you said. I'm doing healthy. I was like, that's gotta be on a t-shirt. I'm doing health. It's like the class. No, I'm just eating an apple and shit.
I'm doing health.
Just broad brand it like that could mean anything, like even brushing your teeth, like fucking just doing health. I love that.
What do you want these days? Health.
Health.
I'm doing health.
I'm on that health. Like when people say I'm on that health kick, it's like, what the fuck does that mean? You're eating like a spiced like protein shake or something like that?
Yeah.
I've been slipping cold syrup into my protein shakes in the morning. It's like, Jesus Christ. Yeah, it really packs a kick. I bet.
Syrup.
I don't want to end up being that construction person at a job that's like drinking alcohol in a Mountain Dew 2-liter bottle and just getting through life. Like that's pain to me. I've been having like these weird fucking dreams where I'm at like a construction yard and I'm like live right beside it and they're building an apartment complex. And
You
so
the guy, bro.
the street that I live on or used to live on was a place called 12th Street, which was like right on the water. Now, after I moved a couple of years later, they built an apartment complex, but I remember that thing was in construction for like a full year. You just slowly start to get, they built like one floor at a fucking time, but you saw like the cement walls and shit. And I remember I would like, there would be people in the other apartments beside me, and I would like, it would be like a whole community type thing, like how it was when I lived there. But in my dream, it's like there's that, and then there's these construction workers that are building up there. And I thought, what would it be cool to like sneak out there, like in my dream, like sneak out there and like go explore the apartment building, like just like
Yeah.
with some of the rooms built, but a lot of it open because they're still building it. And then I found a fucking nail gun and I'm like firing it off. Next thing you know, this whole thing fucking collapses. And it's like me outside looking at this whole thing collapse. And I just walk into my fucking door, lie down in my bed, and I'm like, I know when I wake up, there's gonna be a whole fleet of cops at my fucking door, just like, who the fuck did this? We saw video of you fucking around with a nail gun. And then I always wake up from the dream before the fucking cops show up. But it's that fear. Like I'm literally in the dream, I'm feeling scared. I'm like, oh my God, I'm gonna spend my whole life in fucking prison. That's gotta be so much worth in damages. And then I'm like, why can't I have a cool dream where I'm not worried
Maybe
about fucking money? Every fucking thing is about money.
I was gonna say maybe that dream is your like subconscious of you, how your podcast is about attacking things in society and stuff like breaking down the walls of society, and the cops in your dream is like the CIA that's coming to get you for
I'd blame it because I'm
being
a
so
Jew and I don't ever want to lose a
conspiracy.
fucking dollar.
Dude, yeah, I wasn't gonna say that. That's not my place to say.
People say like it's a race. I'm like, yeah, I mean, if you're talking about like the chosen, like I have Ashkenazi in my blood, but I don't refer myself as Jewish. I wouldn't even call myself religious. But people are like, well, Ashkenazi's the chosen people. I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? You could fucking, it's like the Elizabeth Holmes that was taking those little drops of people's blood and spinning it and telling them like they're going to have this genetic disease and shit. She got arrested on 5 accounts of like fraud and stuff and so many millions of dollars because people were basing their life decisions on that shit. She was like weirdly through like the ending of like right before she went to jail, she changed her voice. Like she was always like Steve Jobs, like talking like this. And then like towards the ending, she was like, and then they would do this and that. But she like, I mean, people would be like, hey, you miscarried your baby. It's sorry. And then that person ended up having a baby. Like, we didn't fucking miscarry. You lied to us. She was just like, it was all bullshit. It was the biggest Ponzi scheme, like Bernie Madoff. Um, and that shit happens, but you only start to see like crime punishment or jail time when it's over money. It doesn't really matter. You can be sued, sure, but when someone starts basing their health decisions and like life and death, that's when you start seeing like, oh, you're gonna go to jail for a long fucking time.
For sure. It's like those psychic detective shows. There's a woman I'm very bad with names apparently. I don't remember her name, but you can look it up. There's a thing that happened on Inside Edition where they had a psychic lady come on, and the couple days before she comes on, a producer goes down to her store or go down to her house and says, "I'm looking for my sister. I haven't seen her since we were kids. She went missing. I was wondering if you could help me." And he gives her a picture of this little girl, and she looks at it and she's like, "Oh my god, I think I think I know where her body is. Unfortunately, she's dead, but I can help you. She suffered a lot. She was raped. She was tortured, but at least I can help you find her. And so he was like, oh my God, thank you, whatever. So the next day, she gets a call from Inside Edition, and they're like, we want to do an interview with you because we want to interview the psychic that's helped solve so many cases. And she's like, okay, I'll come in. And she comes in, and they start talking. She goes, so you've solved so many cases with your psychic ability. She goes, oh, yes. Even just yesterday, a young man came to me with a picture of his young sister saying that she's been missing for 30 years, and I helped him find her. And she goes, yeah. And she was unfortunately really badly abused and stuff like that, but I helped him find her. And she goes, oh, really? And then she pulls out a picture of the young girl. She goes, is
Oh
this the
shit,
young
I know what
girl?
you're talking about now.
Right? And she goes, yes, that is her. And she goes, yeah, this
That's
is
me.
me. And she goes, you didn't go missing? She goes, no, I never went missing. She goes, oh, that's interesting.
I work for Inside Edition, motherfucker.
Yeah. It's like, oh, this interview is over. It's like, Jesus,
Holy
like,
shit, I remember
right?
that.
Like, I
As
don't
soon
know
as you
if,
said
like,
that, I was like,
yeah,
"Is this the lady that pulled out the picture like this is me?" I was like, "I think I saw that somewhere."
right? Exactly. It's a huge thing, right? So, like, just seeing that and just like, oh, how many people get like the people that are, if I'm not saying psychic isn't real, because I am a believer in that kind of stuff. I do believe there is such things, but I don't think they would charge. Like this lady was charging like $500 for people to come talk to her, then another 500 just to go help them find their missing people. Like
I've, I've
if
I've mentioned it a couple times on the show. I've done things I can't explain. Like I remember having a dream where they found somebody exactly where I dreamed, and I told my mom about it because my mom believes 100% of that stuff. See, there's a girl that
yeah,
went missing a long time ago, Sarah Foxwell.
yeah.
It's probably the last time I'm ever going to say this on the show. I've said it a couple times already. But she had a dream that this little girl, when she was missing, where her body was.
Hmm.
And like the girl came to her in a dream, said, "This, tell my parents this is where my body is." My dad called in anonymously. They found her exactly where my mom called in, or my mom said that in her dream, that's where the little girl said she was.
Hmm.
And they found that girl. And I mean, ever since then, my dad's been a believer of it. And then my family, like everyone's done things and kind of dealed into that kind of like my grandma said she could see ghosts and shit. And
Yeah,
then I don't know. I don't know what that is. Maybe that's another frequency, or maybe that's the next stage in evolution. I have no fucking clue. It's just
yeah,
so hard because you start talking about it. People are like, okay, yeah. And they pat you on the head, ruffle your hair and shit. I'm like, man, I think you got to be open to all that type of shit.
for
And
sure.
sadly,
Like
the only time you ever really are is when you get exposed to it.
yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I think that's the thing. Is like I've never had an actual thing happen to me, but I've known people that it's happened to. Like I've known people that have actually spent time in a haunted situation. I've known like my girlfriend, she and her family, they lived in a haunted house that actually shit happened to them. My grandmother, she is very clairvoyant. You know, we're native, so we're very more spiritual. We're more into that feeling of energies.
Don't blame that shit on the spirit culture type stuff.
Well, it's true, man. We can feel energies more. We're more connected to the energies around us. You know, no, I'm
I'm
not trying to be
connected and
racist.
I'm
I'm not
not
trying to do
Native
anything.
American.
Well, no, but you
You
can
don't
be. That's
see
what I'm
me
saying.
saying I can hear when someone rubs two pennies together. Like, what the fuck are we talking about here?
Well, I'm not saying you have to be native to be open to that, but native people are just
Yeah,
more intuitively
I
open
know.
to
I'm
it,
just fucking with you.
right? Yeah, I know. I'm just saying that, like, you know, but that's why that's my other thing too is that I don't really uh say, oh, you can't be native just because you're not. Well, you can't be native because you're not native, kind of thing. But like, doesn't mean you can't practice the practices and learn to love nature and learn to love
Yeah,
the energies around you.
like a
You know,
spiritualist.
yeah, be spiritual about it. So I've kind of grew up with all that kind of stuff, and though I've never had anything happen to me, my mind is very open that it could possibly, and one day if it does, I want to make sure I have the proper cameras and shit like that so I can film it. Because I
um,
see the shit on the internet, and I'm like, oh, that's so fake. Oh, you could fake that. That you can just look at you see the cut mark right there where they chop there, right there. Yep, that's where they cut it and put it in the next film.
uh, I don't know. Seeing is believing, but god damn it, if you don't keep your eyes open, you can't see it.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Chris, we've been talking for almost 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Yeah, yeah, it feels
I
about
watched
that.
the sun come up and light up your face. It was awesome. I was like, is that the lighting in his room is going? Is he turn a lamp on?
No, sun's coming up. It's morning. Had my coffee and had a good
Can't even
chat with
tell you're
you.
high. You're still squinting. God, that was because the
It's so
sun. That was
bright.
a.
Yeah, it's just
I
so
hope you
bright.
don't have Asian American heritage. That would suck because then that would be like a racist joke. I'm just kidding.
No, unless you count that Native people crossed over the Bering Strait.
I thought the bear, that whatever that short faced bear was keeping people over there from
What?
colonizing. There was a short faced bear they talked about that actually might have kept people from like translating over to a different part of the
The
It's that
Bering
northern
Strait.
strait. Yeah, the Bering Strait.
Yeah, I have no idea. I never heard of that. I just, my buddy Ryan we used to have this running joke like, he's not racist or anything like that. We're buddies. We just like to bust each other's balls. You know, like I call him white man, white boy, kind of thing like that, and stuff like that. But we're never meaning it like viciously. But sometimes he'll be like, because we learned about the Bering Strait and how Native people might have crossed over from Asia. So he'd be like, well, aren't you just Asian anyways?
There's I had a joke and I was trying to figure out how to craft it out. Because I went to go pick up Chinese with my buddy, like Chinese food. And we
Yeah.
went to go pick up it was like a New Year's Eve tradition we always do. Plus like a great birthday gift. I love that. Dude, some nice shrimp fried rice is awesome. I don't know what it is about it. I don't care if it's like the most like fucking soaked food you've ever eaten. It's fucking delicious.
Yeah, yeah.
But we put up in a parking lot, and as we put up in the parking lot, two people like were like one dude was sitting in his car. Like I look over, and I'm high off my ass, so I don't know if I was just analyzing everything because he gave me a 50 milligram edible. I was fucked. I didn't know where I was. I couldn't drive. I couldn't get out of the car. I was just gonna sit in there, wait for the food to drop in my lap and
Mhm.
warm up my lap. Um, but I looked over and someone was like sitting in their car like how I was. And my buddy is like, I'm gonna go in and grab the food. He's about to put it in park. And I look over, I see this person get into their car and then start mouthing like Chinese, like toyon, like that type shit. Like fucking, when
Yeah,
they say
yeah.
drop silverware and all that type of
Yeah.
stuff. He's mouthing those words. And I go, you know what's funny? He goes, what? And I'm like, I want you to remember this because I'm really high and I'm probably going to forget. But I go, I wonder like how many times like you see someone maybe beside you jump in their car and say mouth those words. I go, it'd be funny to get like a movie shot where like it's from the inside workers that are watching you
Mhm.
back out of their fucking parking lot through that fucking glass door that they can see through and just see you mouth racial slurs like that and be like, these white motherfuckers. Like I was trying to figure out how to craft that into a joke. I think that's a really funny fucking movie scene. That would be hilarious.
Have you ever seen Eddie Murphy Delirious?
Yeah.
He has a bit in
Is
there.
that the orange suit or the purple suit?
The red, like the bright red
Oh, the
suit.
red one. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. And he has a bit in that, I think, where he talks about going to McDonald's in China or Japan or somewhere. And he goes, "Do you think like when you go into there, or you go into like a place or you order or no, it was going to a restaurant, a Chinese food restaurant, and like when you order your food, then they turn around and you do the squinty eye thing and you make fun of their voices and stuff. You think when they go into a McDonald's in Japan or China and they're like they open their eyes open and like Big Mac and like make fun of our voices?"
Fuck. That means I'm on the same level as Eddie Murphy. I've never seen the red suit one. I've seen the orange suit one, I think.
Yeah, maybe it's orange. I think it's like a reddish
I only
color.
remember the part where he's like, ice cream.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah, that's
Okay.
the one.
I've only seen that clip from it. So I'm like, damn it. All right. Well, I guess that joke's done.
Sorry.
Um,
Hey man, great minds think alike, and like they say, everything's gonna. There's always people thinking, so you're gonna have the same ideas somewhere coming, constantly going. That's why you get certain songs that sound alike. You get certain bands that have almost the same kind of sound as other bands.
yeah.
So each person gets the same kind of idea. It's
It's
just
all cyclical.
yeah.
Well, Chris, it's been a pleasure as always, but
Yes, thank you.
always room for more podcasts. Where can people find that?
Well, on all the podcast apps you have, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, anywhere really. Twitter, you can find us on Twitter at Always More Pod, and yeah, Facebook at Always More for more podcasts.
It's funny. I heard your trash truck pull up, and then mine's out front right now.
I think that's the truck. I live right on the main street.
I know you remember telling me that before.
Yeah.
Well, I'll link it all in the description. Is there anything you want to say to anybody out there listening before we wrap up the show?
Not really. Like, come and listen to us if you like. If you're into stoners and you like hearing what stoners have to say about weird shit like what might be out in space, what cloning might happen to us, and all that kind of shit. The kind of shit that you talk about, we kind of talk about, but more stone like.
Yeah, my brain's just naturally high. It's called psychosis, and I'm happy with it.